Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can visit our website at holybatcast.com or find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You'll find us. If you're a big fan of the show and you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a big thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. I got to give a special shout out this week to Rody Michael Chement. Rody upped his pledge, which is so sweet and unnecessary, but we always love that. So Rody, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. And a big thank you to all of our patrons. You guys make our lives so much easier. But this week the love goes to Rody. And everyone else, but specifically to Rody. So thank you guys. We appreciate that. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so you can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm your bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode is mostly a mailbox episode. Mostly mailbox. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. Because we got a lot of emails from you guys, questions about Black Adam, about DC, about our new heads of DC Studios. We've got a little bit of news, and I want to hear what Jamie thought of Black Adam. So we're going to do all that. Unfortunately, Jamie's here with me. So Brendan's out this week. Sean came in for an impromptu episode in the middle of the week, but this time, Jamie's back. Hey, Jamie, and happy Halloween Eve as we're recording this.
It's a bittersweet time that the
It
day
really
is almost upon us.
but I should be excited, being like, "Yay, Halloween's tomorrow!" But instead, I'm like, "Oh no, Halloween's tomorrow. It's going to be over."
Like this today will be worse than tomorrow for me, because today all I'm going to do is think about how the Halloween season's almost over and all the crap I have to get done for Thanksgiving and Christmas now. Tomorrow will be great because my twin's birthday is on Halloween and plenty of stuff to do. Plus, I have to work tomorrow, so yeah, I won't have time to think about it much tomorrow, but there'll be a tear on my pillow when I lay down to sleep tomorrow. I'm sure.
I know. It's so weird. Last week I started getting those twinges of, "Oh no, it's almost over." It's such a weird thing, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel as we get closer to Christmas too. It's like, I'm not excited for Christmas yet because I'm still in Halloween mode, but like then I'm like, "Yay, Christmas!" And then when we're on the 21st, I'm like, "Oh no, it's going to be over soon."
I think I have a tougher time with Christmas in that respect than Halloween.
Well, because at least when Halloween is over, which is very, very sad, I'm like, well, at least I still have Thanksgiving and Christmas to look forward to.
Right.
When Christmas is over, it's like, you got nothing. You got a wasteland of months before anything fun.
Now, you might be different than me in this case, but I think in my case, since I watch horror movies so regularly and so often, like I kind of shut off the valve on it about July and then kind of build up to Scarathon. But come January, I'll start getting back into watching them, once a week, couple times a month, whatever. So I never feel like that Halloween feeling like completely goes away. But like Christmas is like Black Friday to December 25th, and that's it. I don't watch Christmas movies before or after that. And, I'm like taking down the decorations on the 26th kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I have it a little bit worse with Christmas.
No, I get that. And I actually am similar because, yeah, like I am very strict on my Christmas season. I will still do like Christmas music and Christmas watching the 26th, maybe the 27th, but by the 28th, it's kind of like over.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people will they'll ride it till like January 6th or something. I just,
Right.
for me, it's not the same at that point.
Well, what was it Dolly Parton said a little while back about going to like January 7th or 14th because it was her birthday and she just didn't feel like taking the lights down, and loved having that spirit and everything. But, Dolly's the most positive person on earth, so
she can do what she wants.
Yeah, whatever she wants.
Yep. Well, I'm glad you're back. Thanks for making the time. Before we get to all the fun DC stuff we want to talk about, I got to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, True Classic. So today's episode is sponsored by True Classic. Guys, think about your t-shirts. Finding that perfect shirt is always tough. This could be too big, too tight, just boxy. But fortunately, True Classic wants to make every man look good and feel good with a tighter fit in the chest and sleeves to make your arms pop and room in the torso to keep things cozy. So all their styles are super soft and at a great price for what you're getting. So guys, no excuses. Get rid of those ratty t-shirts that you've been hanging on to for years and get ready to upgrade. We have an exclusive deal for all of our Holy BatCast listeners. So if you want to check out True Classic, we want to hook you up. go to trueclassic.com and you can use the promo code BatCast for 25% off. They're stylish. They're nice. They're soft. They look good. It's a way to wear a t-shirt, but dress it up and feel fancy while you do it. So if you do want to do some shopping for some apparel, because they don't just sell t-shirts, they sell all kinds of stuff, go to trueclassic.com, and it is the best deal you can find. Is 25% off with the promo code BatCast. So please check it out. If something speaks to you, it's a great way to buy something nice for yourself, just like we say with all our sponsors. But at the same time, you can support Holy BatCast in the process. So do a little shopping, buy yourself something nice, and just make sure that you do use that promo code, get your discount, save some money. And if you do make a purchase over $100, you also get free shipping. There's also a 30-day return policy. It's risk-free. So when you look good, you feel good, check out trueclassic.com and use BatCast as your promo code. Get your discount. Save some money. We would appreciate that. So go to trueclassic.com, check out their stuff, and thank you to True Classic for sponsoring this episode of Holy BatCast. First thing I think we should talk about is, I mentioned it briefly on my quick little chat with Sean a few days ago, but we had bigger fish to fry with our new heads of DC Studios and Superman. There was a lot to talk about. So something that also came out, there's a lot going on with DC, is the fact that the HBO Max Green Lantern series is being rejiggered. It's being redeveloped. So they have lost their writer and showrunner, Seth Grahame-Smith. He, I guess, wrote a few of the scripts already.
He was one of the people originally attached to Flash, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I think he was the first one attached to the Flash way back
No,
when.
it was that Rick Fuma.
No, Seth came before Rick Famuyiwa.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know what? Now you're making me doubt myself. That's the way I remember it, but it could be the other way around.
Either way.
Yeah. But anyway, so they have decided to shift gears. Now, apparently this decision was made prior to the James Gunn, Peter Safran news. This was already happening. It's just timing as far as when the news came out. But they are rejiggering it to now really focus on Jon Stewart. Previously, it was focused on Guy Gardner and Alan Scott. And so now they want it to be about Jon Stewart. They're refocusing. It says it has nothing to do with the news of James Gunn and Peter Safran. Berlanti is still attached as producer, and his productions are still producing it. And this was announced in October of 2019 originally. So, man, it's just been something we've all been waiting for. There was casting previously for both Guy Gardner and Alan Scott, but we don't know if that is going to. Neither of them. Oh, here it says neither of them remains signed on to Green Lantern. But Berlanti Productions would like to still work with both actors if possible. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So interesting. I mean, it's not hugely surprising, I don't think, because this was one of those projects that I think a lot of us were looking forward to, but also had gone so quiet that everybody started being like, hey, is that even happening anymore? What the heck's going on with the Green Lantern series? And this makes sense. They've decided to change things up. So how do you feel about them shifting gears, losing Graham Smith, and now focusing on Jon Stewart?
Well, I mean, how many times are they going to ditch this guy from a project and ask him to come back for something else and him say yes? I guess. I mean, I think the only thing of note that I really like that he was involved with, and you can catch me if I'm wrong on this, but didn't he write or have something to do with the Dark Shadows movie with Johnny Depp?
Yeah, I think he did write it. Yeah,
which I love that movie. Love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan myself. I really like it.
But
didn't he write Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
I think so.
Which I kind of liked. I'll be honest.
It's fine. Yeah. So I mean, it's not like me ripping my hair out, going, God, why can't they keep this guy on a project? But it seems like they keep wanting or offering for him to do things, and then they. I don't know if it's because they see his work or if it's just because the guy's caught in a bad mess of circumstances everywhere he goes at Warner Brothers DC. But man, it just seems a little disheartening to me. But At any rate,
Here, and
Green
just
Lantern
for
series.
the record, here it does say that he chose to leave,
Oh,
just
okay.
because of the constant regime changes at HBO Max, which
Oh, well,
I
shocking.
I kind of get, and it said he actually wrote the scripts for all 8 episodes of season 1.
Okay. So, sure, I'm excited. I love Green Lantern. Hal's my guy, of course, but I love pretty much most of the other Green Lanterns and their less than heroic counterparts, and all the colors of Lantern, all that stuff. It just appeals to me, and I think there's great storytelling to be had there. I guess my biggest concern here is we already know how Zaslav feels about sinking a bunch of money into an HBO Max project, and it
Right?
really
Yeah.
seems to me that Green Lantern lends itself to theatrical level spectacle. So this is one of those projects. Until I sit down and watch press play on the first episode, I'm not going to believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, understood. I mean, honestly, I was surprised to hear that they were rejigging it as opposed to just canceling it for that very reason. Because this, ever since they announced this, they talked about how expensive and how epic and how ambitious it was. And like we said, Zaslav has made clear he doesn't think that that sort of investment in HBO Max is worth it. So I would be surprised. I was kind of surprised that they wouldn't just kill the thing. Um, I'm encouraged that they're not, because I love Green Lantern and I want to see a Green Lantern series. So I'm glad that it still might happen. I think shifting the focus to John Stewart makes a lot of sense, and I'm all for that. I think that's a great idea. I was still down with Guy Gardner and Alan Scott, but just because we're focusing on John Stewart doesn't mean we still can't include Guy Gardner and Alan Scott, or Kyle Rayner, or Hal Jordan for that matter. Like,
Jessica Cruz.
right. There's no reason we can't include any or all of them. And I always thought initially when they announced this that that was what it was going to be, is each episode might focus on a different Green Lantern, which I think could have been a really fun way to do the show. Uh, we'll see what happens, but I still think you could still do that. I agree with you. Like, Hal Jordan's the OG, so he is always the first one I think of. But I also
Technically, Alan Scott's the OOG, but
okay, my bad,
for
my
our
bad.
generation, I
For
would say Hal's the
yes,
OG.
no, you're right. You're right. Um, but I guess with the Green Lantern rules that we're used to, not the Alan Scott,
Not the wood in the actual
wood
lantern.
exactly right. Um, but anyway, yes, like so, like I always feel like Hal should come first, but I'm also okay with it being a John Stewart show as long as they acknowledge or even include Hal Jordan. I think that would be great. So I don't think you don't have to have one without the other. And so we've John Stewart's a great character. I'm all for it. I hope it happens. I've certainly seen fans who are like, call Wayne T. Carr, who was supposed to do it for Zack Snyder, which I would be totally fine with. But there are a lot of other great options for John Stewart as well, that I would be good with. So I hope it happens. It's been a few years. I love the character and I love the world of Green Lantern. It's something I do want to see in live action again before I die. I still kind of like that movie. Just
Same.
and probably just because I want to see Green Lantern, in live action. So I'm probably a little more forgiving than I should be just because of that reason.
Same.
Um, but at the same time, like, I think, this is something that I could get really excited about. And I guess even though it's not good news, any sort of like update that feels real is still promising, which means that it's still moving, it's still alive. So I'm sort of seeing the silver lining of like, oh good, it's still being worked on, it still could happen. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know what Zaslav's position is on investment in TV series, because obviously a series and a movie, though similar in many structures, especially more today with series being shortened down in their runs and movies being more directly available at home, and people not having the stigma that TV is inferior to movies. In many ways, it's actually shifted the other way now. I don't know what Zaslav's position is on budget control and spectacle and everything on a TV series. What I
Yeah.
don't want is for him to kneecap the budget on this show to the point they can't do it the way that they want to or need to. But I
Hmm.
also don't want them to get the budget so astronomical that Zaslav's going to look at the paint on it and go, yeah, cut this thing. We're done with this. I'm
Mhm.
not putting that much money into it. So, you know, I would imagine he does have significant control with what happens and doesn't on HBO Max as well as the movie areas. But I don't know. I'm kind of nervous in that aspect because that it feels to me like right now what we know with what happened with Batgirl and his position on investing large amounts of dollar in streaming only things. I mean, hell, he's shopping out the animated series instead of keeping them in house. So it feels to me like they're gonna have to toe a line between making it a spectacle enough where it does it the way it needs to be done, but keeping the budget and enough control where it's not going to become an issue.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, if you also look just recently, and I know that he wasn't part of it when it was made, but House of Dragons has been a huge success on HBO Max. And so I would hope that would help grease the wheels a little bit and go, oh, there is value in investing in a large scale, epic, expensive TV show. And so, I hope that helps. I don't know, because again, that was put into production before he took the reins, but at the same time, he still has to be able to see the positive outcome of how many people are watching it. And so I kind of hope that would help keep something like this alive,
Yeah.
showing that there's value in it.
And once more, let's point out, I mean, they're apparently still moving forward with the Penguin series, which is great news. There's a DC hub on HBO Max.
I
They
I,
have
I
to have
know, I
content for
know.
that that's not just stuff that we did 20 years ago to fill that hub. So something's got to give somewhere at some point. I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping. Here's hoping. But again, at this point, I feel like any news is good news because at least it means it's not just wallowing away and just being left to die out in a corner somewhere. So I'll take it. And again, I do think that the adjustment to John Stewart makes a lot of sense and I support it. I think it's a great idea. But again, I don't think it has to be one or the other. I still think you could feature all the other lanterns that we know and love while still making it a primarily John Stewart show.
Sure, and Stewart's great. I love Stewart as a character. The only Green Lantern I'm less enthused about. I'm not crazy about Kyle Rayner, and I'm not a big fan of Guy Gardner. But what I found in my reading the last few years is a good writer can make anybody worth paying attention to. So
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I mean, I agree with you about Guy Gardner. He's kind of better in small doses. But I have seen that happen in other shows. Like I feel like even the Green Lantern animated series, which I really liked, he made I feel like he made like brief appearances and it was just enough. And I feel like you can use Guy Gardner in the right way without overdoing it.
sure.
All right. Well, as far as news, I already covered the big stuff with Sean a couple days ago, but
I,
you
I have not listened to that episode yet because I'm actually still kind of about 2/3 of the way through y'all's Green Lantern or Black Adam review. Uh, but I did notice the topic that you guys were discussing, and I noticed Twitter was kind of buzzing around the whole. I wonder what Jamie's reaction to this is going to be. So if I may just do a quick thing about
go for
the
it.
James Gunn news.
Yeah.
So the other fellow, I can't even remember his name right now. Shame on me, I know,
Peter
but
Safran?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not familiar with his name readily. Like I know the name, but I couldn't place why.
It's because he produced Aquaman and Shazam and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and Aquaman 2.
Okay, so
My
obviously,
hunch is you heard his name most during the press for Aquaman because he did a lot of press for that movie. And so I feel like you heard a lot of like producer Peter Safran says, blah, 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 blah.
yeah, I know a lot of people on social media just throw these names around like I should know who they are, but I don't pay
It's
nearly
also,
as much attention to the behind the curtain stuff as many of you do. So forgive me for that.
that's
Obviously, I know
okay.
who James Gunn is. Many of you, most of you, know my thoughts on Gunn very well at this point. But as far as my own personal take here, this is good news. I know that Gunn is not my favorite filmmaker in the world. His stuff is really truly the definition of hit and miss for me. But from what I know of him and gauged of him, he feels to me like the guy that's going to let people have a little bit of freedom in what they're doing, because he's the guy that appreciates it when they let him have that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't feel selfish about that. He always feels very supportive about projects, even cross company borders and stuff. I mean, he was never one to engage in a war of F Marvel, F DC, that whole thing. He was always the voice of reason in the middle of that, which I appreciated. So for me, it's very good news that we know the guy loves the genre. He loves some of the characters. He seems to really enjoy playing in these worlds with these characters. So my thought is he's going to do the best he can to make sure he has people that have those kind of passions and feelings about it. And he's not going to be the kind of guy that's going to interfere and make them interject his particular brand of humor here, or his particular brand of whatever here. I mean, I feel like he's going to, and this is probably the wrong term to use, he's going to kind of let his filmmakers run loose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what they need, because it follows through with, Warner Brothers being the studio that allows for creative freedoms. And, he'll know, I feel like he's going to know the right people for the projects. Or if somebody comes to him and pitches an idea for a Blue Beetle movie, or Booster Gold, or Jessica Cruz, or any number of things. If they pitch it at him, he's the kind of guy that'll be able to turn the gears a little bit and think, I think this will work with what you've got here. So let's go ahead and get a treatment written up, and let's do this, or let's see where we can go with this. I just, he certainly wouldn't have been my choice. He certainly wasn't one I saw coming, but fans, I think this is good news. I really do. Safran obviously has worked on enough of these projects for movies that I mostly like. So, I can't say much more to him, but from what I know about Gunn, I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily excited, but I think this could really bring some special stuff coming forward. That's where I sit with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we agree. I mean, I did a whole episode, but I think it's very good news. I think it's a great partnership. It's two really good choices, and I agree. I sort of made that point. Is I understand the concern for people who don't love all of Gunn's movies, but I don't think every DC movie is going to feel like a James Gunn movie. I think that James Gunn is smart enough to know that not everything needs to sound like it's from him, and he will let creative filmmakers tell their stories and do what they want to do.
Sure.
All right. So you chimed in on that, but I do understand why people were asking, because you are famously not always on board for everything James Gunn does, and that's fair.
I mean, it's very roller coastery, but there's stuff of his that I really like, and there's stuff of his that I really don't. And you know what? Probably going forward with him in charge of DC Studios, I don't imagine that's going to change very much.
Yeah, it's very possible. But
when you have a massive cinematic shared universe and sequels and this and that and the other thing, it's bound to happen anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Star Wars, Star Trek, James Bond. I mean, I've said this right along. When you have something that big churning out that much product, you're going to have great, you're going to have awful, and everything in between at some point. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. You also finally saw Black Adam.
Yeah. I had to
took your sweet ass time.
I had to cut a couple hours out of Scarathon and go on my day off work. But yeah,
so I joked about it, but I did not count it for Scarathon.
No, I didn't either.
But there's some jokers.
There's some elements.
There's some jokers. No, I'm saying there's some jokers and real fans who counted it.
Well, there's some people in real fans that
count some weird ass stuff.
Yeah. You have no idea how many times I want to tag you in some of these posts and go on, and really you have a problem with me watching Godzilla for Scarathon, but this is okay. But,
well, see, I can give you crap because we're friends. I don't want to come down too hard on someone I don't know.
Fair enough.
Same thing like Eric Carter, like, he had some questionable choices, but I can tell him that because he's my friend.
Well,
but these
randos.
Eric
Carter is a questionable kind of guy. I mean, that's just where we go there.
Yeah. I just at the end of the season, when he puts his total, I'm going to go -1.
Okay. Well, anybody who chooses,
I'm keeping track. I've got my own log here, and I'm putting minuses next to everybody who has a questionable choice. And at the end of the season, I'm going to put the real numbers up.
We know how you love your math, Andy.
Yep. You know what? Anyway,
The
so
comment that Eric made in our chat yesterday about thinking apple pie is better than pumpkin pie immediately eliminated any opinion he ever has with me forever.
wow.
And not that I don't like apple pie, but better than pumpkin, bruh, come on.
Okay, so you finally saw Black Adam. You did not get to join the review show with me and Brendan and Aaron, but you're listening to it now. Finally, you're catching up. You will hear that all three of us really liked it.
Yeah.
But our friends at home probably want to hear what you thought of it.
Okay, I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible. I don't want to spend all day bouncing around and doing all this stuff, but where I'm at in a nutshell is I liked it. I did not love it. There are things in it that I did love. I found entertainment value. I think The Rock was, I've seen better performances from him, but I think his performance was perfectly adequate and did the job that it needed to do. The side characters, particularly the mother and son, not so much the brother, and I'll come to that in a second, I thought were really good and added just enough to the movie to give it that extra heart and the perspective of the mortals, if you will. The JSA, I have no real issue with anybody in the JSA, but I have some issues overall with what happened there. And again, that's another thing I'm going to circle back to. I thought the score was very good. I thought the visual effects were mostly very good. Action sequences were again entertaining. I got entertainment value out of this movie, and you guys know me. This is what I look for to go to the movies: is I want to be entertained. You know, sometimes I want to be challenged or made to think or something like that. But entertainment value is the key thing for me in enjoying a film. And I did enjoy this film. They just had enough issues with it that I'm not over the moon about it. So I'm not quite on board to the level that you guys are, but I'm also not one of those people that say and piss on this thing and burn it to the ground. I mean, that's really getting carried away as far as I'm concerned. I guess I'll get into it. I didn't care for the brother character at all, mostly because throughout the movie there's quite a bit of humor sprinkled in. We know I'm the no jokes guy, whatever. But, almost none of the humor worked for me, especially nothing that came from the brother.
As soon as he started singing in the car, I literally thought Jamie's going to hate that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hate it. I'm like, okay, we get it. And there was nothing that I was groaning or rolling my eyes. It's just I felt like it was trying a little too hard, and it just didn't quite work. You guys made the comment about how similar and I'm terrible with names, guys. We know this. The son, the skateboarding kid,
Yeah.
he was very much like Freddie. And here's where I'm at with it. I agree. Maybe they did toe that line a little bit too close, but if they're doing it in the sense that they're eventually going to put those two together and they're going to like geek out over each other's collections and information and everything else, how freaking awesome would that be?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was cool with that, because kids that age, younger or maybe even a little older, like say, I don't know, 47, would geek out about superheroes existing in the real world. It would be like sports heroes or things along those lines. So yeah, I think that was very well done, very well handled. I'm trying to debate whether or not I want to touch on the accent thing, and I really don't think I want to get into it because we already know it's a point of contention. But
you can just say it. I'm
I'll say
not going to fight you about it.
I'm just going to say, as a broad generalization, accents not matching for no reason whatsoever, other than probably the actor didn't want to put the effort in to do it or wasn't capable in their own performance range to do it, kind of irks me. And when you have people from different regions having different accents, that all makes sense to me, and I get it. And I know, since most of these movies are made in the basis of, English speaking peoples and whatnot, I have to get over the whole, everybody speaks this wonderful English and everything. But come on, guys, this dude was put in the ground 5,000 years ago. English wasn't even really a thing yet. So we can make the case for magic. We can do all that stuff. I get it. His accent not matching theirs. It's a nitpick, but it's one that really bothers me. And it's not just in this movie. It's in many movies. And please don't at me about Kryptonians speaking English or uh, Superman's mother and father on Krypton having different accents. I listen. I don't want to get into a whole thing. I'm just saying it bugs me. But anyway, uh, it gets to a point at the end where the zombies, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, come up out of the ground. And listen, I'm a horror guy. I love zombies. Uh, that part wasn't the most sensible thing in the world to me, but they did, for me, the right thing in that the people got involved at that point. Not the superpowers, but like the people themselves. And I've said this before in things like the Spider-Man movies where, they're Spider-Man's getting beat down by the villain, and all of a sudden the crowd, the New Yorkers come together and say, hey, you mess with him, you mess with us. That kind of stuff just always works for me. So seeing these people rise up to fight against this undead insurgents or whatever you want to call it warms my heart. I love that sort of thing. I like how they address, even though it didn't get too deep, I almost probably would have made this, for me, and I'm no writer, I probably would have made it the focal point of the movie that the heroes don't come to this country to help us out in the struggles that we have with these mercenaries and people that are running rampant in our country. Nobody comes to help out. You only want to go save people in skyscrapers and things like that. You're overlooking the desert peoples on the other side of the planet. So they did address that, and I appreciated that they did. What else? What else do I want to talk about? The villain, he looked pretty cool, said and done, but like the development of the villain and the finished product of the villain, I was not crazy about that. It felt very, to me, it felt pretty underdeveloped, and I think there was just so many better ways that they could have handled it, even if I'm not smart enough to think of what they might be. I feel like there was more to be done there as far as like the writing or story. The JSA, Hawkman looked great. The action sequences were great. Dr. Fate looked like he was right off of a page. Atom Smasher, probably my least favorite of the bunch, but still adequate, entertaining to certain degrees. They really played him more for that comic relief angle, which is fine. I mean, generally each team has at least one of those, so whatever. But again, the humor didn't work very well for me. Cyclone, I felt, was a wafer thin character, but you guys did touch on this, and I'm glad you did. When she's using her powers, how visually striking was that?
It was fantastic. It was beautiful.
I really liked that. So I feel like all four of the JSA characters as presented in this film were underdeveloped, and I guess I wanted more from them. I think the actors all did very fine jobs. I think some of the character choices with Carter might have gone a little bit better, presented in a little more of a charismatic fashion, because Hawkman's like a hard-nosed, not all about conversation and that sort of thing. So I mean, they were kind of in that right area for me, but they just, I don't know. But the branding, you mentioned this on the review, like having his symbol everywhere was a cool touch. And again, they all pretty much looked great. Dr. Fate, I feel like there's so much more they could have done with him, and they just didn't branch out with him the way that I felt they could have to make him presented as the powerful being that he is. I felt like he was almost like old man Dr. Fate, where he just couldn't use as many powers or do as many things as previously. And I know they tried to present it in the way that he doesn't want to get involved in every single conflict. I really think that's why that conversation going on between Adam and Hawkman, he just kind of sat out of it, because they were trying to show that he isn't trying to get involved in each conflict. But I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to sound harsher on the movie than I really want to, but overall, I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I thought it was entertaining, but it left me wanting by the end of the film.
All right.
And maybe not in the greatest way. But I'm certainly welcoming whatever comes next, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Okay. I mean, I think it's fair. Your mileage may vary, and if anything, I know there are people out there who feel similar to you, who were a little maybe let down, but Didn't think it was. I mean, I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but weren't as into it as I think we were. So, at least there's those opinions are represented by someone like you who you liked it, but you were not as crazy about it as me, Brendan, and Aaron.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a mid-level movie for me. Nothing great, nothing terrible, just good enough, I guess is where I'd put it. Good
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, okay, that's all right. Um, well, what would you give it a letter grade? Me and Brendan both gave it B pluses, and Aaron gave it an A minus. So where would you put it?
I think I'm kind of in the C plus B minus territory. I mean, I probably need another viewing to really cinch it down, but somewhere right in that area, I think is where I'm going to land.
Okay.
Probably leaning on the C plus right now, but let me get another viewing in and catch back up with y'all in a couple months when it's on digital, and
Yeah.
we'll reconvene at that point.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. I'm sure we will talk about it again, especially because we got some emails about it. So let's check in with all our fine feathered Fink friends and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, the Wayne Manor mailbox is pretty darn full, but that's because I solicited messages and you guys responded, and I say thank you. The Wayne Manor mailbox is brought to you guys by Manscaped. Manscaped wants to remind you that it is still fresh ball fall. It's the season of pumpkin spice and making sure your crotch looks nice. That means sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. That's right. It's brought to you by Manscaped, a company here to make sure that your foliage isn't the only thing shedding its excess leaves. Heck, even Mother Nature knows it's time to lose the excess clutter for fall, so join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BATSCAPED. So we've said it before, we got great products over at Manscaped to help with all your grooming needs, whether you need trimmers or deodorant or body wash or shampoo or anything, lotions and moisturizers. They have all kinds of things that you could need to make sure that you look good and you feel good, and that way you're all in looking good and smelling nice for whoever you're getting nice and cozy with. So go to manscaped.com, do a little shopping, find something. If something looks good to you, make the purchase, but please use the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. I've said it before, I'll keep saying it. You can't get a better trimmer than the Lawnmower 4.0. For real, don't go with the cheaper ones. This one is going to take good care of you. You're not going to bleed. It's the best trimmer on the market. I don't know how they do it, but I thank them for doing it because it's made my routine so much easier. So I thank them for that. So again, go to manscaped.com, participate in Fresh Ball Fall, use the promo code BATSCAPED, get your discount, and again, you'll support us in the process. So thank you for that. All right, we got some emails. Jamie, the first email here. We're going back a little while because I feel like we haven't answered some in a little bit. This one goes back a couple episodes about our Batman the Animated Series look back that you were unable to be a part of.
That's true.
Yeah. It's from Carrie Vanderberg. It says, "Hey guys, I'm listening to your Batman the Animated Series 30th anniversary episode. Great episode choices, and I'm with Brendan on Almost Got 'Em being my favorite, as well as learning more about Batman's Rogues Gallery other than the classic through this show. Of course, I love the show, and I agree with everything that you guys have always said about it. It's the one Batman thing that everyone seems to universally love. On Joker's first appearance, the first episode aired was Joker's favor, but the first Joker episode in production order is Christmas with the Joker. Here's my question. What is one thing from Batman the Animated Series you wish had made its way to the live-action films? My one criticism of Nolan's The Dark Knight is I wish Bruce and Harvey had been friends. In Batman Begins, we're told that Bruce went to Princeton. It's perfectly plausible that while he was enrolled there, he met Harvey Dent, and the two became friends, and Harvey always wondered what happened to Bruce until he meets him again in The Dark Knight. In my opinion, if Bruce and Harvey are friends, it makes the tragedy of Harvey's turn into Two-Face even more emotional for Bruce. Batman has to save Two-Face not just because there's a good man underneath, but because Bruce wants to redeem one of his best friends. I really wish Nolan had incorporated that into the character, and it would have made the story even stronger. Thanks for all that you do. Have a great day, Carrie. Thanks, Carrie. First thing, you're probably right about airing order versus production order. I am so used to seeing them in production order because that's how the DVDs and then therefore the digital copies, because that's how the order they have been in for years now. I'm so used to looking at them that way that in my mind that is the order. So yes, you're probably right. It probably Joker's Favor probably did air first. So thank you. And then as for something from the animated series that you would like to see incorporated into a live action film, Jamie?
How about Batgirl?
That's a good choice. I'm down with that. How about Robin for that matter?
Oh yeah, fair point. Fair point.
I mean, can I say everything?
I wouldn't object to it.
I mean, and I'm not the only one. So many fans have been saying this for years. Is like how Batman the Animated Series showed you gave this great template and this great balance of dark versus comic book and we just needed more of that. We need more of that in the movies where it's like this great balance of Batman and his rogues and his world, with it just enough fantasy without going too far into camp. Like it found this perfect balance, and that's the balance that the movies I think still struggle with. And that's that's what I want. As far as one thing specifically, let me think for a second. I don't know if you have something, Jamie, but
I've got two things, and neither one of them is terribly specific. But the animated series was typically fairly grounded, but it still didn't shy away from the fantastical or even sometimes almost supernatural elements.
Right. Like I would say, it's a great balance. Yeah.
I would love for the movies to start swinging a little bit more that direction. And then I'm going to cheat a little bit with this answer because it's not exactly animated series, but it's certainly very closely related. Phantasm.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that is the answer, but that's more of an overarching answer. Is just the balance of reality with fantasy. I think in the animated series is done so perfectly, and I know it's done in animation. It's a different medium. I get that, but I still think that there were lessons to learn from the way they approached it on the animated series and apply that to the films. And I feel like not enough films have tried to do that. So I think we're on the same page as far as that goes, Jamie. But yeah, I guess more specifically, taking both of our answers, it's the Bat family. I think we've all been wanting to see the Bat family in not just in live action, because we've certainly gotten some of it in Titans, but in a movie, in a plausible and credible way. And again, the animated series made it look easy, and I feel like you could take some of those lessons as well when you introduce them into the films. I think the note about Harvey is interesting. I still think it works the way it's done in The Dark Knight, where Harvey is Bruce's one last hope. But I do think, they could have done it a different way where they are old friends from school, and still have that extra layer in it. I think that could have worked too.
Yeah, I'm kind of good either way on that one. That the Harvey Bruce relationship has never been something that I, not to sound harsh, cared about either way. Mm-hmm. But like even in Dark Knight Returns, Batman is treating Harvey or like he's an old. Yeah, Dark Knight Returns. He's treating Harvey like he's an old friend, but in the way that continuity is established, it's Bruce is trying to help him recover after he's been captured and put in Arkham or wherever. He's paid for his surgery to lose the scarring and all that stuff. Like he's showing compassion as if they were old friends, but in truth, all they've done is fight for 15 years or whatever it was. So I think there's a way to keep that balance without having a pre-established relationship prior to, Harvey showing up as the DA.
Yeah.
And yep. I agree with you. I think Nolan did it just fine.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, there are a lot like the Harley Ivy relationship. Like been wanting to see that in a movie, and then that started with the animated series. I would love to see that. I'd love to see a movie version of Christmas with the Joker, since we were starting to gear up for that season. Like I love the Christmas episodes of the series, and I would love to get one of those in live action. So I mean, yeah, there are countless lessons you can learn from the animated series to try and incorporate into the films, and I think it is a missed opportunity that has not really happened. Honestly, the closest is Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin, which is crazy, but and I think that's the only element of Batman and Robin that I think is pretty good, is that the fact they took the Mr. Freeze backstory.
I knew I was forgetting to mention something. I'm just going to back up a second to the Black Adam talk from a minute ago.
Yeah.
They showed the Shazam 2 trailer before it.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything about that trailer?
That now it says it's coming out in March.
No, the trailer I watched literally had no release date on it.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, that's kind of par for the course with DC at this point. But yeah.
No, I went and saw it with Preston, and they showed the Shazam trailer, and he goes, "Is that the same trailer?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is, except this one says March instead of December."
Yeah,
the one
I saw literally did not have anything to do with when it was being released.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I also noticed that there's the part where he is sliding on the street, and he goes under the truck. And in the original trailer, he was on fire, and they've since taken the fire out.
Okay.
Which I think is weird, but I also saw some fans complaining about oh yeah, you'd really get set on fire. So I'm like, oh, did they actually bow to those people? Because who cares? But
well, if there's a flammable gel or something stuck to him, yeah, it will burn. It won't burn him, but it'll still burn.
I just was it was just, I don't know. It was just a weird thing. It was it was a little thing that I would have never thought twice about until I saw some people complaining about it. And I was like, oh, gotta find something to complain about. Okay, cool. And then now that it's not in the trailer, but I feel like that was maybe more of because the trailer is more aimed at families, that they didn't want to show him on fire. I don't know. All right. Next one is from our pal Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey guys, I was listening to your recent episode with Brendan, and you guys were talked about cold openings for Batman movies with lesser known villains. So if that were the case, which villains would you like to see be involved in any cold openings or even a cold ending? Thanks for the great podcast, Tom Fallows." So we did talk about this briefly, about you can have the cold opening action scene like a Bond film, but featuring a villain who's probably not going to get his own movie. So, Jamie, who would you love to see pop up in something like that?
I mean, literally anybody, because you're not restricted to the idea of just because you spent 7 minutes of Batman chasing this person over rooftops and apprehending them and tying them to a light pole for Gordon and the GCPD to pick up, doesn't mean they can't show up in a movie 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever. There's no reason to cut yourself off at the ankle there. So you could do it with lesser known characters, or you could do it with the Joker. I don't care, but gosh, the idea that Batman is busy with more than just one thing at a time appeals to me because, comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the beauty of that, is it gives you a completely blank canvas. You can use whoever you want, and I think it all could work. Because you're right, it could be a cameo from a previous film, like they did in The Dark Knight, where the Scarecrow came back only for the opening, which I love that, right? I love that continuity of he was one of the main villains, and this time he's just back for this cameo, but it's a great connective way to tie the movies together. But I think the question is really it's a villain is not going to get their own movie. Who would you like to see show up? I think of someone like Killer Moth, like a ventriloquist. I've been on the record of not loving the ventriloquist, but I know a lot of other fans do, and I certainly don't want to see a Scarface and ventriloquist movie, but in a cold open, I think it could be very cool. I love Mad Hatter. I think the Mad Hatter could be really fun. Because again, I don't know if Mad Hatter would be the main villain for a movie. You could certainly incorporate him into an entire movie, but he's another one. But honestly, you could do a fun callback and do a modern version of King Tut in a cold open and get away with it, because you're not going to make the movie about them, but like what a cool, fun thing to do. It was like reinvent this classic character and like what a great nod to fans, something like that, which I know is a little silly, but I think could be really awesome because it gives you a chance to go, oh, here's what this could be today in 2022 or whatever. Just trying to think of other like lesser villain, like Killer Croc, like would be
that's
great.
the one I was just getting ready to say was Killer Croc, because you can have just a brief, 4 to 7 minute action sequence of him running through the sewers and catching Croc and them having a little tussle and, Batman eventually getting the upper hand. That would be great to see. Yeah. Because we've seen Killer Croc. Obviously they probably at this point, I would guess, would use a different version. I don't know, but
yeah.
I mean, we've seen Killer Croc in a whole movie at this point. So why not have Killer Croc, be it the same one or a different one, and just give us a couple minutes of it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it goes to some of the others that fans have been asking for ages, which are Man-Bat and Clayface. I certainly, much like Mad Hatter, I think you could use those for an entire movie, not necessarily as the main villain, but as another element in an entire movie. But if you're not going to do that, both of them would make for really exciting and unique opening sequences, right? Like, I think both of those would be low-hanging fruit at this point.
Yeah. I mean, what we need is like 7 Batman movies a year to get all these bases covered. That's what we need.
Well, there you have it.
I know some people are just like, oh, Batman and everything. It's like, no, Batman and more things.
I know. More Batman, please.
That way we can have stuff like The Batman, and we can also have stuff like a live-action Batman, Brave and the Bold, and anything in between. I'm good with
it. Right. All right, cool. So next message here is from Stephen Orm. It says, hey, Andy, Jamie, and Brendan, I hope you're well and you're having a great Halloween. This isn't so much Batman related, but I wanted to recommend 2 things that involve Colin Farrell and John Turturro. A weird black comedy, The Banshees of Inisherin, has Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Barry Keoghan. It was directed by the same director as In Bruges, Martin McDonagh.
Sold.
All right. It was only recently released in Ireland, but I highly recommend you seek it out if it's ever streaming. John Turturro was in a one-off series called The Night Of. It was a very dark story. Turturro plays a lawyer, but brings some comic relief whenever he's on screen. A great watch if you haven't seen it. Cheers, Steven. All right. Thanks, Steven.
Yeah, the name of that director always eludes me, but I own every one of his films that's been released in the U.S. so far because I'm a big fan. I
mean, I love In Bruges. I don't know what else.
I believe he also did 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
I did not see that one.
I think 7 Psychopaths was the other one he did.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. So I guess I have a lot of catching up to do.
Anyway, check them out. Good movies.
I have some good John Turturro recommendations for you. The Transformers films.
Well, why you got to bring the room down, man? What's the matter with you?
Or how about this? This is what I always think of when I think of John Turturro. You stole my story. You know that one?
Can't say I do.
Was it called Secret Window? I think it was called, with Johnny Depp.
Oh, I saw that one time like 20 years ago, and
it's John Turturro just popping up everywhere, going, "You stole my story." And that's just what I think of. But anyway, okay, so The Banshees of Inisherin and The Night Of are Steven's recommendations. If you want some more. I will
definitely check that out. Martin McDonagh. So yes, the 3 that I have, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, 7 Psychopaths, and In Bruges. And I really like all 3 of those films. So I will definitely keep my eyes open for when that releases over here.
Cool. All right, next message is from Mark Bickford. It says, Black Adam, spoilers ahead. I should have given a spoiler warning before you gave your thoughts, but you didn't give anything too spoilery away, honestly. Like, I think it's all right. Most people have seen it. I'm trying to think.
Well, I didn't talk about that particular end credit sequence because I happened to notice that you said something about you got up and left when the credits started. So I did.
I just figured the movie was over.
Yeah.
So I had to pee. Sure, it was fine.
I've been there. I probably would have had to also, but I spilled like half a lemonade on myself while I was in the theater, so I didn't drink as much of it as I should have.
Well, there you go. That's a pro tip. Want to drink less and have to pee less? Spill your drink. Yep. All right. So this is Mark Bickford. It says, "Hey guys, in case you haven't seen the film yet, and your mail client shows the first line as a preview, I'll mention that I've seen some posts saying that you shouldn't go see Black Adam and instead tweet to bring back Zack Snyder. I have to ask you, am I even a good DC fan? I am far past the age where I could be limber enough to shove my head that far up my own ass. Also, I'm sure Zack's fine at this point. He's got to deal with Netflix when they still thought they were rich. Second, regarding the theoretical WB Universal merger, I'd hate to see it happen and lose all that WB history. At the same time, I believe Universal owns the Harvey Comics properties thanks to them buying DreamWorks, so maybe we can finally get the team up that the whole world has been waiting for. Dead Man meets Casper the Friendly Ghost. This whole thing prompts the question, is it even possible to make money as a pure movie studio anymore, absent theme parks and your own networks to garner ad revenue? Okay, regarding Black Adam, I really enjoyed the movie. I think they did a great job with the JSA, and I'm very glad we got to see Pierce Brosnan in the actual Dr. Fate costume at least once. Quintessa Swindell was a revelation as Cyclone, and the surprise cameo by Henry Winkler as the Golden Age Adam, Al Pratt, although they just called him Uncle Al, was terrific. I also like the story, and now I'm wondering who all those other supervillains are in Waller's secret underwater lair. And Dwayne Johnson was Dwayne Johnson, but he was perfectly fine as Dwayne Johnson. Nitpicks. In the theater, I was wondering why he didn't say Shazam in the underground bunker during the escape sequence, as opposed to waiting until he got to the surface. But I just realized that the lightning would have blasted a hole in whatever was shielding the bunker, probably drowning everyone in it. So that just leaves the music cue during the Superman cameo to wish they had done differently, using the Man of Steel music instead. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts, Mark." All right, Mark. Oh man. So first question about, you shouldn't go see Black Adam and instead to bring back Zach.
I love Zack Snyder, but guys, come on. The DC universe, cinematic or otherwise, is bigger than one person, one actor, one director, one producer, one studio head. It's bigger than that. And if you can't accept that, then I'm going to say something that many of you probably aren't going to like, but I'm just going to say it. If that's your stance, then you're a hell of a Zack Snyder fan and a terrible DC fan. There, I said it.
Okay.
Next.
All right. I don't know if I have anything to add to that. The WB Universal merger. I do want to address this. I know you're joking, or it sounds like you're joking, but I want to address it. First of all, yes, I would like to see DC crossover with Harvey Comics. But my point is this, is when they announced James Gunn and Peter Safran, I saw some people go, "Oh, I didn't see this coming." I guess that means Universal's not going to buy them. I was going to talk about this with Sean, but it was late at night and we were trying to focus on the task at hand. I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think the bringing in of James Gunn and Peter Safran to lead DC Studios in any way precludes from a possible sale later on. Because any sale that could happen will not be able to happen for another year and a half. So it's not like David Zaslav and WB Discovery are just going to sit on their hands for a year and a half waiting for that to happen. You can't. And so I think they have to continue to define the studio and, re-strategize and move forward, because nothing is guaranteed. And there is certainly a possibility that if they do that and they do it well and they're able to manage their debt and they're able to get it profitable, they may no longer want to sell in a year and a half. And I know this is all rumor. So I hope you understand what I'm saying when it's all speculative, but I think it makes sense. But if all of these moves and the streamlining and the layoffs and all of that stuff, if that manages to get Warner Brothers Discovery in a profitable position in a year and a half when they are able to sell again, at that point they might go, you know what? Actually, we're doing okay. Things are looking up. We don't want to sell. But at the same time, they could just be putting things into a much better spot and to increase the profitability so they are more attractive to sell in a year and a half. My point is, we have no idea. Nothing's written. No sort of sale could happen. until I think it was April of 24. And so they have to continue doing business as usual until that happens anyway. And then when that window opens, we'll see. So I still think anything is possible. I agree. I hope that Warner Brothers is able to remain its own studio, because it would break my heart to lose another studio, especially one with the storied history of Warner Brothers. But I just don't think anything is for sure yet, and it won't be for another year and a half.
I mean, for selfish reasons, I'm not opposed to it for two reasons. Number one, I could lose one of my streaming service costs because I imagine we're going to merge Peacock and HBO Max.
Fair.
And number two, I mean, I'm probably alone on this island, but I would love to see the DC Universe and the Fast and Furious movies cross over at this point. I mean, neither one's more realistic than the other, so what the hell? Let's do it.
I mean, my big thing, and you know this, is I would love to see DC at Universal Parks, but that would be the silver lining.
God, I can't believe it just now dawned on me.
Yeah, come on.
We could literally get Batman versus Dracula in a licensed
form. Yeah. Well, you could do that now. Dracula's public domain.
Well, you get my point. I mean, there's no,
yes, you
no
could do
hang-ups with the Universal monsters at that point. So.
Right. You could get Batman versus the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I would,
or Swamp Thing and the Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Oh shit! Yes. Now I kind of want this to happen.
There are opportunities. Let's say that. Okay, so as far as Black Adam, all good thoughts. Glad you enjoyed it. I didn't even think about why he didn't say Shazam until he got to the surface. My guess is because it's not the cartoon, so he can't say it, and the bubble says it for him. That's the way I took it. Right?
Well, I mean, he was outside of his containment unit while still in the cell or the building, whatever. I guess they could have done it there. Because I'm an idiot, I just thought he wasn't taking off the oxygen mask because he knew he was going to need it to swim up, not thinking that if he was actually Black Adam, he wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I didn't really think twice about it, honestly. I just I was like, oh yeah, you got to get to the surface so you can say a word. But I guess
the movie did its job if we're all, kind of looking over these things, maybe.
Yeah.
But with the thing with the other containment units in there, I was like straining my eyes looking around and I see what these are. But all I can tell you is it looked like some of those in the background were much bigger than normal people.
I did think the same thing, as I was like, oh my gosh, like my imagination did sort of run wild. And then I was like, oh, I mean, I'm sure it's nobody right now, but it could be anybody. And then as for the music cue for the Superman cameo, I mean, Henry Cavill's addressed this the same way he addressed the costume, is this was part of his choice. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm kind of good either way. I am. Like, both of them are music that evokes Superman, so I don't mind that they went the way they did. But that's just me.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, I love Zimmer's score. I love Williams'
score. Yeah,
100%. And I'm not going to tell you which one I think is better because I'm not sure there is one that I think is better. Obviously, Williams has been around longer and it's much more recognizable to the masses, which is why I'm sure that was chosen.
Yes.
Instead of to satiate, a particular niche group of fans with it. But yeah, I'm good either way. The costume I thought looked good enough. I thought he looked good. The kind of spit curlish looking thing I thought was fine. I mean, he's evolving as a character, which was the whole point of those movies to begin with, is he's becoming the Superman that we all know and love, kind of, that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good with it. I'm fine.
And that's pretty much what Henry said, is he's like, it is the music that whenever people hear it, they think Superman. And that's fair. Like, that's totally fair. That's just practical. And I agree with you. I don't think Williams's or Zimmer's score, I don't think either one is better than the other. I think they are both amazing. Like, honestly, I love them both so much. But if you want the general public to think Superman, that's the theme that they're going to hear. And I know people get mad about that, but like, just be realistic. I get the preference, like from an emotional standpoint, but like, if you're just being practical and realistic, that's the truth. And here, I'm going to piss people off again. Like, when people hear the Elfman Batman theme, they think Batman. And that is still the only Batman theme that does that. Well, with the exception of Down and On and On and On and On and On, Batman.
Which would piss multiple groups off, not just one.
I love the Dark Knight score, but you can't play that for my mom and go, what music is this? And she's not going to,
exactly.
like, and same thing with the new Giacchino score. Like, you just can't, like, but I can play the Elfman score for anyone, and they go, yeah, that's Batman. And that's the truth about Williams of Superman.
That's exactly what I was going to say. My 79-year-old father would recognize the Williams music and what it's from. He would not recognize the Man of Steel music.
Yeah, and like, and again, like, it doesn't mean that one is better than the other, and it doesn't mean the other ones don't have value and the other ones aren't great, because they are great. I listen to them all. It's just the reality of, like, certain pieces of music just get so wedged into pop culture, and, like, that's just the way it is. All right. Onward. Next message is from Rich Wood. It says, Dear Michael, Jason, and Freddie. I think I'm Michael, you're Jason, and Brendan's Freddie.
Well, I got to be Jason.
Because you're the biggest.
I don't want to be Jason.
Sorry about it. You're Halloween 6, Michael. Well, I'm Halloween 1, Michael, and you're Halloween 6, Michael.
I'll tell you.
It says, as I race down the stretch to finally finish the Holy BatCast archive, 300 down, 68 to go, I came across an episode that you reviewed, The Fear from the Superpowers Galactic Guardian series. I thought it'd be a perfect Halloween show to watch. While I enjoyed the episode, it didn't quite meet my Halloween expectations. I was wondering if you could suggest some DC movies like Batman vs. Dracula, or perhaps an episode of one of the DC series that has a heavy Halloween theme to it. Thanks, and I hope you have a spooky Halloween, Rich Wood. Rich, I got some bad news for you. If you listen to some recent episodes, we get similar questions, and the answer is there isn't a great choice. There is a sad amount of, like, truly Halloween-y Batman content. You got some. You got Grundy's Night from The Batman, which is an episode of that animated series, and that one's pretty good. There's one Scarecrow half episode of, like, the Adventures of Batman animated series from the 60s. That's kind of Halloween-y. Obviously, Batman versus Dracula, we all watch it at Halloween time. It's not actually set at Halloween, but it works well enough. But honestly, there's not a real slam dunk in there, which is the real shame. And every year in October, I get annoyed with it because Batman and Halloween should go together perfectly, and nobody has truly embraced that, at least not in stuff we could watch. There's certainly comic books, but as far as, like, watching things, movies, cartoons, things like that, there's not enough of it. You got the one little moment in Almost Got 'Em with Poison Ivy where it's on Halloween. And I've said this before, there are actually quite a few good Teen Titans Go Halloween episodes, but yeah, like, if you're looking for, like, this is perfect Batman Halloween watching, I still think we haven't gotten it. Jamie?
I don't have anything more to add because I agree with you. I think it's pretty slim pickings out there. And I'm sure, you can go through and find, reading content is a little bit easier to find this stuff than it is, motion media content. I will definitely say that.
Yeah. Much. Yeah, but the request, a heavy Halloween theme, that's your request. That not really a thing.
You can find it in the books, not so much in the animated or movies or series or anything else that I can think of anyway.
Yeah. You get one scene of Batman Forever. You get the beginning of the Batman, but even those are pretty light.
Yeah. But if you want some reading recommendations, check out Action Comics Annual number 1 from probably 1980, probably around 88-ish somewhere, I think it is. I mean, it's not volume 1, annual number 1, but you'll know the cover because it has Batman and bats and stuff like that on it. But as I recall, and it's been years since I've read it, but it's like Batman and Superman fighting vampires.
I remember you recommending that before. I still haven't read it, but I remember that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about some stuff here. I think it was 2 years ago we talked about Castle of the Bat, which was pretty fun. Haunted Night is a good read. That one's a good one too. So, there are a lot of reading options there for quite a few years, DC came out with Halloween specials, and so I'm sure you could find those. Those are a lot of fun. But we just need more DC animated Halloween stuff, and God forbid a Batman Halloween movie that's like truly a Batman Halloween movie. All right. Next message is from Robert Reinecke. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast. I'm sure you'll have a lot of thoughts on the news that James Gunn is going to be the creative head of DC. But turning it in a more personal direction, we all know that Gunn knows the odder, obscure corners of comics. Are there any deep cut properties that you now have hope could be greenlit? Commandy would be on the list for me, just to throw out an example. I hope you have fun with this question. Best, Robert Reinecke." Thanks, Robert. Okay. The most random DC thing you think James Gunn could be interested in?
Let me think about
Or
that.
that you would hope he would be, I guess.
The Commandy thing almost feels like it would need to be a standalone, because how would you possibly incorporate that in a shared universe? And not that we couldn't have a standalone movie. I mean, certainly we could, but it would be interesting to see how they would do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. What? I don't even know where to begin, because the problem I have is there are so many of what I consider to be A-list characters that still haven't gotten their proper due yet, that how do I start talking about C and D-list characters that should come up in the mix of things? That's kind of the thing that's got me tripped up there. Because, Flash, I mean, we still, that movie may or may not exist at this point. I have no idea. Cyborg, God, I can't even think of one. Green Lantern. So
I know, and those aren't even that obscure, but still.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're what I consider to be more or less the A, or even at worst case B-list characters. But if you're starting to scrape up things for like Ratcatcher number 7, I mean,
right.
I don't know what to say to that. All I'll say is I'll probably scratch my head at a choice that comes along like that, but I'll certainly give it its fair due.
Yeah. I know I'm trying to think of a truly obscure DC character. I mean, aside from Blue Devil, but you guys already know that. That
Wait, doesn't the Harvey Comics, don't they own the Little Devil property also?
Hot Stuff?
Hot Stuff, yeah, that's
Hot
it.
Stuff? Hot Stuff
Hot
and Blue
Stuff
Devil?
meets Blue Devil, baby.
I'd watch that too. I mean, I'm not saying I'm holding out hope for it, because I'm actually not that big a fan, but I'm saying it for J. Oz, and because it seems like James Gunn would be into it.
Yes, say it.
Detective Chimp.
Yes.
Like I'm not a big Detective Chimp guy, but like I know he has his fans, and I feel like James Gunn would be one of them.
I mean, being the fan of Primates that I am, I would watch the hell out of that. So
yeah.
I'm in. And yeah, that really fits Gunn's sensibilities too.
It does. I mean, Batmite, like I could somehow he gave Batmite a shout out in Peacemaker, and so I would not put it past him to somehow incorporate him somewhere, and that, depending on where, it could be fun.
Superman versus Mixus Pedblick, or however
yeah, something like that. Yeah, God, what's more obscure in the DC world that like Fire and Ice? How about that?
Hey, here's one
we
that
haven't seen them in ages.
Here's something that some of you may not know, and I recommended this to you last year because of the DC universe. Technically speaking, just based on comic publications, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, is part of the DC universe.
Oh, okay.
Go on your DC Universe app, search Elvira. There's some comics in there of her.
All right, I'm down.
And I'm not talking about just looking at the pictures, you filthy-minded little boy. There's actual reading to be done.
I have a bunch of the Elvira comics.
Do you really?
Of course.
My man.
Please.
I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't.
I mean, it's weird because it was going to happen. Now it's dead, but I could see it coming back. Wonder Twins.
Yeah.
That could work. What if they did like all the made up heroes from Super Friends in their own movie? like Apache Chief and El Dorado and the Wonder Twins. Who else was in there? Samurai. Like all the made up Hanna-Barbera heroes could have their own movie as like a substitute Justice League.
I ain't even mad at that.
I would watch the hell out of it.
Chief,
Black Vulcan. That was that was another one. Which was so weird. Why would you not just use Black Lightning? But they didn't. They made up Black Vulcan. But anyway, yeah, like
was
all
Black
those,
Lightning even created by the time that show was?
I don't know.
I mean, it would have been late 70s. So
I would have thought he would have been, but it also could have been because they didn't want to pay the creator. I feel like there was maybe drama with that.
yeah, the Tony Isabella, I believe his name is.
Yeah,
He's very protective of that property, understandably so, I guess.
yeah. So yeah, the Justice League of substitute heroes, using all of them.
I'd watch that.
I would too. So Robert, I don't know if those are great answers, but yeah, you'd think there'd be more answers. But I feel like for all of as much mess as there has been with DC, like I feel like there has been a good variety of stuff being developed, at least, right? Like Blue Beetle. I mean, we're getting a Blue Beetle movie. I wouldn't have seen that coming. So Wonder Twins was going to happen. So some of the more obscure things have already been on the table. But if you're thinking like super, super obscure, yeah, I guess for now I'll go. But then I'll go with super obscure Batman villains again, like that could show up in some way. Like I said, give me modern takes on Egghead and King Tut.
You know what I'd love for Gunn to do, and it would probably get him fired if he could even get it past the green light stage. I'd love for him to make a Batgirl movie with the exact same cast, the same directors, the same script, the same everything, and just make the movie from day one scratch.
You know what? I actually thought about that.
I could see him doing it, but
Yeah.
I don't know that he would ever get it past whoever he answers to. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah. You know, that crossed my mind as I was like, there's a way to make it up to everyone, is be like, we're going to remake the Batgirl movie with the right budget, with the right scope, all, set for theatrical from the start.
That's petty, but I'd do it.
Yeah. All right. So, next question. It is from our pal Stephen Marshall. It says, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I had to write in now that the smoke is cleared from Black Adam and that post-credit scene. And we have word from the man himself. Henry Cavill is back as Superman. I couldn't be happier. I'm glad I never gave up hope for all these years. Even when he was technically out, I always knew somehow he would return. And knowing another merger was happening, I knew that it could change. So my question is this. The original plan that Hamada had was to erase Cavill's Superman via the Flash movie and then replace him with Supergirl. Knowing that, and knowing we were going to get a headless Superman in the post-credit scene of Black Adam, what do you think the plan was? To reintroduce Superman with a new actor? To have Supergirl face Black Adam? Was Black Adam going to be considered a separate universe, or was there no plan? Even though I don't want to live in a reality where that happened, I must admit I'm intrigued to know what the heck they thought they were going to do. I'm so glad it didn't happen. Anyway, sorry for the long email. I just wanted to gush about our Superman's return. Here's to Henry. Raises glass. Kind regards, Steven." All right. Thanks, Steven. I'm glad you're excited. So are we. Jamie, what do you think?
Judging by what we know, the details that we've amassed, the opinions that float around, the no plan thing seems like the most likely to me, but I really don't know what to say. I mean, are we going to reshoot a bunch of stuff for Flash now and incorporate Henry Cavill into that since he's clearly stepping back into the cape and boots? I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. We have not seen The Flash, obviously. And I have certainly heard these rumors that it was going to quote unquote erase Superman. I feel like to speak to that, I would have to see how that occurs, because I can't imagine they would not leave themselves a window to bring him back, right? Like, I feel like it couldn't be definitive, because you couldn't just eliminate Superman. And if it did, then I think I would be just as annoyed as all the fans out there. But because I hadn't even seen the movie yet, I don't know if I should be mad or not. I feel like they probably maybe did it as like a stopgap while they figured it out, is my hunch. But I think that of all the options you raise, and number one, I don't know if it's true that we were going to get a headless Superman and Black Adam. I don't know if that's a true thing.
I never heard that.
So again, sometimes we act like rumors are true, and we all know that that's not the case. So
Well, I mean, it might not have been completely out of line given what we got at the end of Shazam.
I get why you would think that, but at the same time, like with all of the fighting The Rock had been doing, I just feel like they would just not do it at all, as opposed to doing another headless Superman cameo.
I love how I want to interject this real quick. I do love how everybody out there assumes that The Rock is running all the decisions at DCWB right now.
I mean, he's not, but he was certainly running the decisions on Black Adam.
Fair enough.
And so that's why, like, I don't know, but let's just assume that it was going to be the case. My hunch is yes. My hunch is like that they were essentially leaving them an out to recast, right? Is Superman's still out there in the world. He's still part of the universe, but, they probably were going, well, then we can recast when we know what we're doing. And it sort of leaves them that option. That's my hunch. But again, like I would have to see how it plays on The Flash. I don't know if that headless cameo was true, because again, I would have been shocked if The Rock would have agreed to that, considering he really wanted to bring back Henry. So who knows? But regardless, the good news is it doesn't matter because Henry is back. It will be interesting though to see how and if that's incorporated into The Flash. That will be very interesting.
I mean, the reshoot budgets on that movie alone got to be $250 by now, right?
It just yeah. Never ends. Okay. It's Carrie Vandenberg again. It says, hey guys, Henry's back. Oh my God, I can't believe he's back. Aside from the Snyder Cut news, this has been the announcement I've been waiting for over the last 5 years. To hear how Emmerich and Hamada were against continuing to use Henry's Superman makes me even more happy that those jackasses are gone. Henry's return has me ecstatic and feeling like I can finally be excited about the DCEU again, which I haven't felt since 2018. If only they could go back and fix the god-awful headless Superman scene in Shazam, then I'd finally be willing to buy the Blu-ray for that movie. Best news ever, and a massive thank you to The Rock for making it happen. However, when it comes to the new heads of DC Studios, I'm more apprehensive. For Gunn, it's a mixed bag. I love both Guardians films, but I actually hated The Suicide Squad, and I refuse to watch Peacemaker. I think he's a filmmaker who respects other directors and will push their creative freedoms and has learned from the best, having witnessed how Feige has managed the MCU. So I'm not too worried about Gunn, even if I don't like all of his creative choices. I am worried about Peter Safran. People close to Zack Snyder has said that Safran is anti-Zack. So whether he feels the same as Hamada and Emmerich did towards Zack, or if he was just following their lead, remains a big question mark. I hope it's the latter, and he was just following orders, but can now put that aside and welcome back Zack. For me, that would be the true test of the current regime with Zaslav, DeLuca, and Abdi, and now Gunn and Safran, bringing back Zack to let him complete his Justice League art, more Henry Cavill Superman, and making the DCEU feel more cohesive with a better foundation is what I'm hoping for with this new regime. Hope springs eternal despite my reservations. Sorry for the long emails. I wish you guys well, Carrie. All right, Carrie.
That's a loaded email, pal.
It sure is, right? Sure is. Well, I will just say, let me just say this. We share your excitement about the return of Henry Cavill and getting more Henry Cavill Superman, so totally agree. This is literally the first and only negative word I've heard about Peter Safran since the announcement. So my only negative source about Safran comes from Carrie Vandenberg. So I don't have as many worries about Peter Safran. Considering the work he has done with the Conjuring universe and with Aquaman and Shazam, and I feel really good about him. I've never heard him be anti-Zack. I don't know what sources those are.
I didn't feel like Shazam or Aquaman, either one was anti-Zach in the least.
Yeah.
If anything,
So
I'd say they were pro-Zach.
yeah. So but I'm gonna say this, Carrie, and I know where your passions lie, and I appreciate it, but I also think it is unfair to judge the future on DC Studios only if they bring back Zack Snyder. That can't be the only litmus test moving forward, because we can't count on that. Especially, again, like I just Justice League 2 and 3, man, like I would love to see them. I'm with you. I do wish that would happen, but I do feel like that ship has sailed. Um, Mostly because of Ben Affleck, honestly. Like I just don't know if Ben would want to come back and make two more movies. I would love to be wrong, much like with Henry Cavill's return. I hope that would not be the case, but I feel like if all of your hopes on bringing back Zack Snyder, and if that's the one thing that doesn't happen, that you're going to reject the whole thing, I feel like that's not fair to the studio. That's not fair to everything else that could happen and all the other content they could bring to us. So I don't think that is the only criteria for pass or fail here.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you just said. And listen, I'm with you. I would love to see it. I would love to see Zach come back. I'd love to see Ben come back. But at this point, and I said the same thing about seeing Zach's version of Justice League too. So what the hell do I know? But I at this point, I don't see how they make that work unless they're just going to finish those off while establishing a new universe on the side.
Yeah.
And I don't see them investing that kind of money in it.
Well,
and I certainly don't think Zaslav's going to let them finish off Justice League for HBO Max exclusives.
Yeah, yeah. And here's what I will say, and me and Sean alluded to this, is I do think with James Gunn, the chances of Zach coming back to make another DC movie, I think, have raised. I think it is certainly on the table again, because of a new regime and because of
they've
Gunn's
collaborated
and
previously.
Zach's. Yeah, because of their relationship. I certainly think it's possible. I wouldn't hold my breath for that to be Justice League 2 and 3. I think Zach would still want to do it. And the good news is most of the pieces are still in place, but I still think for me, the biggest speed bump would be Ben. Like, does Ben really want to, to make those two movies, we're talking another 18-month commitment. And I just don't know if that's something he would want to do. So do I think it's possible that Zach comes back at some point to do another DC movie? Yeah, I think that's possible. And I hope that happens. I just don't know if it would be the completion of the Justice League trilogy again, because other movies are going to continue being made in the meantime. And at a certain point, like that, we will have moved past that.
Yeah, I think I agree.
So, time will tell. Again, maybe Ben would do it for Zach, but again, it's different to come back for a day or two cameo as opposed to committing to two movies of that scale. All right. Next message is from Brian B. It says, "Hey guys, I hope your holiday season's going well. I'm sorry for an email so shortly after my last one, but I wanted to chime in and give you guys kudos for the past couple of pods. Andy and Jamie, I wanted to say that the Halloween retrospective was by far the best you guys have done during my 6 years of listening to Holy BatCast and RF for RM. It was truly a delight to listen to you guys gush about the films, and the 3.5 hour runtime flew by when I was done with my painting project, or while I was doing my painting projects in the house. Ironically, I emailed you guys this summer about hot takes with the franchises you love, and you mentioned it then, but I will say that I always defend Halloween 5. Yes, it's weird, but I think it makes a great double feature with 4, and I never minded Tina, even though there are some grown moments with her. In terms of Halloween Ends, I will just say, to quote Jurassic Park, will there be Michael Myers in your Halloween movie? Won't there? And just leaving my bitterness at that. In terms of horror movies that you love, what films do you recommend to people? Andy, I know you love Dead Silence, but personally, I always go with the original Dawn of the Dead, which is surprisingly hard to find, and It Follows, which people think is the sequel to It, and I always laugh about that. Secondly, on your show with Sean Gerber, you mentioned that people might still have reservations about working for Zaslav. For the people with those concerns, I'll just say this. For years, the Phoenix Suns had a terrible owner in Robert Sarver, but once they hired a good GM and coach, they went to the finals, and they're now on a 55-plus win team the past couple years, despite the owner. While there are huge differences between Zaslav and Sarver, which go beyond management that I won't get into, the point is you can still succeed with a terrible boss, even if the people can get the work done, which I think they will with Gunn and Saffron. Sorry. As always, thanks for the hard work. And Andy, just to let you know, I will definitely listen to a Leprechaun franchise retrospective because those films are hilarious. However, I'll also say the Puppet Master franchise is where I draw the line. Best of luck. Thanks, Brian. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed our Halloween episode on Real Fans. We had fun doing it. And yes, it's a long one, but it's a lot of movies.
Let me just throw this in on the Halloween thing.
Okay.
And this is going to get me off everybody's Christmas card list. You already
You've
know.
been off everybody's Christmas card list for years.
I know.
No one sends you Christmas
this,
cards.
This is going to get me off their Halloween card list too, though.
Okay.
I loved Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first, I guess it's really the only question is horror movies that you recommend to people. I will say I appreciate you defending Halloween 5. I appreciate that. And I kind of get it, even though I do think it's when I look at it on its own, it's the one like I want to watch almost the least. But like I get it as far as like watching it with 4 and they do kind of line up. But I just rewatched them all recently and I'm still mad about how they did Rachel dirty. And for what? For what? Why would you need to replace Rachel with Tina? You already have Rachel. Why do we need Tina? We don't need Tina. Anyway.
Because of those lace trim jean shorts and that giant mall hair. That's why.
I guess so.
Sorry, that stuff just makes me weak because I'm
well,
and I remember when those were things. So
there you go. You know what's funny is we were watching Halloween 5, and you know the boyfriend who works at the liquor store and he ends up dying in the barn?
Yeah.
Catherine goes, "Oh, I know him. I worked with him."
No kidding.
Yeah, she knows him. She goes, "I had no idea he was in this movie," because when you see him now, he doesn't look anything like he did in the movie. Obviously, it's been a lot of years. But I was watching the documentary, and when he popped up in his current state, she was like, "Oh my God, I know him." I was like, "That's hilarious," because Catherine worked at Universal Hollywood for a lot of years, and so she knows a lot of random people.
She's people who knows people.
She is. So anyway, yes, I always recommend Dead Silence because it is an underrated gem and more people need to discover it. I just did that with one of our listeners a couple days ago. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey, what else do you recommend?" I was like, Dead Silence, especially because he had just watched Malignant and he liked it. And I was like, okay, if you liked Malignant, you got to watch Dead Silence.
Malignant is great. I don't care what anybody says. I
just rewatched it last week and it is great. It's great. It's so good. I was worried it might not be as good a second time. No, it is. It's great.
It is. Yeah, yep. I've seen it 3 times now and I still love it.
It's awesome. James Wan, man. So Dawn of the Dead and It Follows, I think you're going to get no argument from either of us, but especially Jamie.
Oh God. I love both versions of Dawn of the Dead, but Dawn of the Dead 78 is just barely behind the original Halloween for my favorite horror movie of all time. I think it's fantastic. It's even better than 10 Cloverfield Lane. So no, I'm never going to ever let that die ever.
Well, when you hear something that absurd, you shouldn't.
It Follows. I just watched that the other day for Scarathon. Man, that every single time I watch that movie, it's tense. It's captivating. It's wonderful. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. Is it Micah Monroe, the lead actress in that film?
Yeah. I don't know either.
She was also in The Guest, which is another one of those movies I've really come around to in recent years.
Oh, I love The Guest. I think it's great.
She is a treasure, and I hope it's by her choice. She's done a lot of work, but it tends to be like small art house kind of stuff usually. I don't know how she hasn't broken through to more mainstream stuff. Again, I really hope it's by her own choice making and what script she wants to do.
But I have a hunch.
Yeah.
She was in Independence Day 2.
Was she really? I never saw it.
You shouldn't, but she was, and I forgot that was her. I revisited it on 4th of July because I hadn't seen it since the theater. It did not get better with age. But I was like, oh, yay. But I was like, oh, I wonder if like that hurt her career. But that's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not a very good movie.
She's great. And
because you're right. I agree with you. I think she is great.
the movie Watcher has come out, and I have not watched it yet. I have it rented. It's in my queue, but the raves about her performance in that film are off the charts. So I'd love to see her break into, superhero stuff or mainstream stuff, whatever, just because I think she deserves to get paid for her efforts. She's a great
Mhm.
actress. She's
Mhm.
lovely. I'm all for it. But yeah, It Follows is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Any other like random ones that you recommend to people when they ask?
I have movies that I would probably recommend above these, but like every year I watch a couple of movies and I always think to myself, why does this not have a stronger, even cult following than what it does? But like the movie Deep Rising,
That one's fun.
I adore that film. It is such a blast from beginning to end. And it fits the horror bill, but it's really more of a creature feature type of a thing than a true horror film. But there's definitely some scary horror elements, and it's humorous in parts, but I think it's done in check enough that it just pans out great. And I think that wasn't that the same guy that did The Mummy with Brendan Fraser?
Yeah, that was how he got the Mummy gig, was Deep Rising. Stephen Summers.
No kidding.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I guess if you like The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, which I know a lot of us do out there, I'm a big fan. I love that movie. I would check out Deep Rising because I don't think enough people have seen that movie, and I think more people should.
Yeah, I do feel like it sort of slipped into obscurity. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it since the theater, but I remember liking it in the
Yeah,
theater.
it's a great time.
Yeah. And when you
Um,
watch it, you totally can tell it's Stephen Summers from
yeah,
the Mummy. Like it's
and some
that
of it's
same
of its
sort of like
time.
tongue in cheek, but
Yeah,
yeah.
some of it's of its time. Some of the effects are dated or cheesy CGI or whatever, but still, I think the movie works as a whole. So I would check that out. Um, it's not really a horror film, but the James Wan movie I think more people need to see and haven't is Death Sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's more of a realistic based film. Some people have even considered it the best Punisher film ever made,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not branded as a Punisher film. So I would check that out. It's an excellent film.
It's good, but it's a tough watch.
It's not easy on the soul.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
absolutely not easy on the
I
soul.
bought it sight unseen because of James Wan, and I watched it and I was like, oh, this is really good, but oof, like oh, I needed to watch like Tiny Toons when I was done.
Yeah,
Like,
you need a bottle of whiskey and and some Pink Floyd records when you're done. I mean, it's wow. Uh, Not obscure, but I've noticed a lot of people are chatting about it right now. And since I just watched it about 2 days ago, I'm going to say Barbarian.
yeah, I've had such a good time watching everyone watch it
The
because
reactions to the film are
oh,
pretty
it's so
universally,
oh
what the
my
hell
god.
did I just watch?
It's
So
so entertaining because what's funny is so the first person who told me to watch it was our pal Phil Derasmo because he saw it at Comic-Con. And even then he goes, "Oh my god, guys, this movie Barbarian! I can't wait till you can see it." And I was like, "Okay," well, and I kind of filed it away in the back of my head. And then it just really became readily available within the past 2 weeks, maybe.
yeah,
Um, and
It's on HBO Max right
and
now,
now,
guys.
yeah, now it's on HBO Max. And so I watched it as soon as it was available for streaming, and I watched it knowing nothing but the title, like literally knowing. I didn't even know who was in it. I knew
Oh yeah,
nothing.
it's got to be a cold watch. Don't
Yeah,
watch a trailer. Don't read a synopsis. Don't do anything. This movie is best served as a cold watch. You recommended it that way. That's how I did it, and it really paid off in spades because of that. It's not a perfect film. I have some issues with it, but guys, I am a horror person. I love horror films. There was I kid you not, I am not exaggerating. There was a point in this movie where it had me so stressed out I had to pause it and get up and do some dishes and grab a beverage and go sit back down and resume it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I went in cold, and I was like, I had no idea anything could happen in this movie. And then yes, I watched it, and then I posted that being like, guys, I went in completely cold. If at all possible, do the same. It certainly adds to the experience. And then over the past week, I've watched everyone else watch it and watched their reactions, and I'm so entertained because of it. It's great.
When you have Guy Milks saying "What the f," you know it's a movie, boys and
Yeah,
girls,
it was
and
it
everyone
was
else.
something else, and I'm really glad people are watching it. But yeah, that's a new one that it's fun watching everyone discover.
Yeah, I think that one's going to make regular Scarathon rotation for me. Again, I have some issues with it toward the end, but overall, I think the finished product is a really good time. If
Yeah.
that's the right term to use for it.
Yeah, it's something. um Gosh, like I can't think of many that are like that I watch that are like no one knows this except for Dead Silence. That's why I always recommend it, is just because it's one that's a little more obscure, but it's amassed a bit of a following, which makes me happy.
And I think James Wan owes you an addition to his Christmas card list for that movie and the amount of people that you've gotten turned on to it.
Thank
Because
you. I agree.
I'm among them. I'm one of those people that looked at the poster and I was like, oh, killer puppets, yeah, that's dumb. But then I watched the movie and I was like, wow, that was good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of ones that like there are some great remakes that I know you and I have recommended over the years. The Fright Night remake is great.
love
The
it,
Night of the Living Dead remake is great.
love it,
The Texas Chainsaw remake is great.
love it.
The one that I just rewatched and I forgot how good it was The Hills Have Eyes remake. And I was like,
Love it.
that one's really good. And I feel like no one talks about that one anymore. That one just sort of disappeared.
That's one of those I actually hold above the original because I didn't really care for the original, but that remake, boy, that's another. It's pretty intense. It's brutal, but it's worth the scare-a-thon trip.
For sure,
really
for
is.
sure. So that one I remember. I remember thinking it was good and then revisiting and going, yeah, it's good. House of Wax remake, I think, is surprisingly good. So those,
Autopsy of Jane Doe. I know it has a small but loyal following to it. It's a very original take on a specific horror genre. I don't want to give anything away. Again, I think this is another one that serves as a cold watch. Right now, last time I checked, it is in the iTunes $4.99 bin. Andy, if you haven't seen it, it's worth the $5, man. Check it out.
okay.
It's more of a slow burn, what's going to happen next kind of a thing, but it's a solid movie. So I would say that one's another that is worth more people's time than has been invested thus far.
Yeah. Okay. I will say this because I feel like a lot of people appreciate Annabelle Creation, as they should, because it's great. David Sandberg, director of Shazam and Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. Not enough people, I think, have watched Lights Out, which is awesome. And Lights Out is what got him Annabelle Creation, which is what got him Shazam. But Lights Out is awesome.
I was not crazy about that at first, but I gave it another chance and came around pretty good to that and wound up buying it and added it to my list. I'm probably not going to get it in on this year's Scare-a-thon, but yeah, I agree. That's certainly worth your time. It's a breezy film. I think it's only like 85 minutes. It's not very long at all, but there's some pretty intense stuff going on there too.
Yeah, that one I think is really good. Oh man. God, how long could we go? There
could be a whole episode of Real Fans all by itself.
It is. I mean, I think it already has become that, but we're in the middle of Scare-a-thon. It's all we're thinking about right now. I'm watching the Wrong Turn movies because they were all 6 of them were for sale for $20. And I was like, why the hell not? I've never seen them. And I enjoyed 1 and 2. 3 was kind of like straight to video trash, but it was still kind of fun.
Actually, 2 through 6 are all straight to video.
Well, 2 was straight to video, but like it still felt like a movie.
Yeah.
Whereas 3 was straight to video and felt straight to video. You know what I mean? Like there was
and Henry Rollins is in 2, and let me tell you, Henry Rollins makes anything better instantly. So.
Well, yeah, accurate. So I know you didn't like this, but I was like, oh, it's the same story as Halloween Resurrection.
I see why you say it, but
it is.
Since I really liked Wrong Turn 2 and I didn't like Halloween Resurrection, I don't want to give it the credit there. You know.
I mean, that's the one you guys should revisit, Halloween Resurrection.
I'll throw this one out because I don't know how many people have seen this or not. I think I caught it on IMDb TV like 5 years ago, whatever it was. But I'm literally in the middle of watching it right now. I paused it to come down here and do this podcast. Tales of Halloween.
Oh, yes.
It's an anthology movie, all based on Halloween night. Some of them tie together very loosely. It's like 10 shorts involved in it that are like, anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes a piece. And not all the segments are amazing, but they're all good enough. And there are a few amazing things in it. Definitely worth your time. And usually you can find this one streaming on Prime or Freevee or whatever it is they call IMDb TV now. And it's not difficult to find. It's like an hour and 35 minutes long. I'm a big fan of anthology horror anyway, Creep Show, Trick or Treat, that kind of stuff always appeals to me and I really like it. And this one to me is truly one of the better anthologies, especially in recent years. So
Yeah, I
recommend
agree.
that.
I agree. I'm a big fan of it too. I like it.
There's some goofy stuff. There's some deeply scary stuff. There's some silly stuff, but it feels so Halloween. I mean, I'll give you just one example of the many stories that are told in here. There is literally a sequence in this film where this guy has been decorating his house and his front yard for Halloween for 20 years, and these young punks move in across the street and they start doing their decorations, and it turns into a war between the two of them about the Halloween decorations.
I love that one.
Yes. So
I also
yeah,
I also love that's the one with Barry Bostwick as the devil, right?
yes.
That's amazing.
Adrian Curry, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like I really like that one too. Okay, sorry. There you go. You got us down the Scarathon route. This is supposed to be a Batman podcast, but it's all your fault. Sorry, Brian.
Well, here now we've given the people some Batman Halloween content, even though the two are completely not related at all.
Sort of. Okay, we got some more emails. Next one is from our pal Aaron Cajanto. I learned Cajanto, who was on our last episode. Hi, Aaron. He says, "Hey, legends. I hope you're well. I'm just listening to your chat with Sean about Superman. With them already taking pitches from writers, how quickly do you think WB wants him back on screen? 2025? Also, who would you like to see the Man of Steel face off with? And lastly, would you see the same cast return, especially Eisenberg as Lex? Anyway, take care of yourselves. Talk soon, Aaron." Thanks, Aaron, and thanks again for being on the last episode. What do you think, Jamie? What do you think the timeline is? What do you think about the villain and the cast?
I think 25, unless they've already got a script laying there, is really hopeful. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's awfully optimistic.
I mean, 25, I think, is the earliest. I saw someone on Twitter making the case for late 24, but I'm like, they would have to rush. Knowing that there's not a script today in October of 2022, they would have to rush to get it out in 24. So I think 25 is the earliest where that's not the case. It's still a little optimistic, but I don't think it's impossible. Mm-hmm. The villain, I think, I feel like everyone feels it's like it needs to be Brainiac, right? Like that just feels like the right choice. I can't believe we've gotten how many Superman movies and we've never seen Brainiac in any of them. But I will say, yes, the same cast. Yes, Lawrence Fishburne is Perry White, Amy Adams is Lois Lane, and Eisenberg is Lex. Yes.
The door is absolutely open with Cavill's return, so I hope that's the case, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, they could do whatever they want, but I'm like, no, if you're going to go to all the trouble of bringing back Henry Cavill, you bring back his supporting cast as well. And I want more of Eisenberg as Lex, especially the Lex we saw at the end of Justice League.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, time will tell, but I think that's the way you do it. You remain consistent.
Oh, there's the answer to Robert Reineke's question. Deathstroke.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry.
It's okay. All right, next email here is from Jay Yaws. Hey, Jay. It says, "Hey, guys, what have you personally had the biggest, most positive heel turn toward in Batman or DC properties? As in, is there a movie that you positively hated that you've come to genuinely enjoy after reevaluation, or a character that you despise that you finally clicked once you read the right story, or a writer or artist whose style you didn't like since you've grown to love? Even smaller, sillier things like the trunks, no trunks debate, or other such trivial matters that we nerds obsess over. I just want to open up the conversation to see how personal tastes and preferences have changed over time. So keep up the great work and tell them the Man in Black sent you." Thanks, Jay. Good to hear from you, as always. So this is a good question, Jamie, because this is admitting that we can change our minds.
Absolutely. And, it's something that many of us, myself included, are not inclined to do often.
No, it's true.
Just to jump right into it, Jay, you're going to appreciate this. I mentioned earlier, Guy Gardner is a character that I used to despise. Like if he showed up on a page or in a cartoon or anything else, I'd just be like, oh, not this punk again. I can't stand it. But then I read Robert Venditti's Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. And Robert Venditti wrote a really good Guy Gardner, and it compelled me to shift from I hate this guy to I'm still not in love with him, but he ain't so bad. So I say that just for Jay. Jay will appreciate that because Jay not only loves Guy Gardner but also loves Robert Venditti. So there you go. That's my most obvious one.
Okay. Oh man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think this is what you're talking about, Jay, but it's the only thing I can think of. Is like I used to hate the Schumacher films, like hate them, burn them with fire. And now I will put them on and like just enjoy them for what they are, even though I still, and I guess this is why it's like it's a little bit of a, like a double-edged sword. It's like I still won't say they're great movies, but like I just kind of accept them for what they are, and I don't mind having them on in the background as opposed to before where I was like, "Rah, rah, I get so mad and I hate them so much," and now I'm just like, I don't care. They just are what they are, and to the point where like they come out with merchandise for them and I buy it, so f me. So yeah, I've certainly softened on the two Schumacher films. So for what it's worth. Trying to think of any other examples of like a positive thing that I've come around on and I've enjoyed more. I mean, this, I don't know if this is a great example, but another one is like The Dark Knight Rises. Is like when I haven't watched it in a while, sometimes I think I don't like it as much as I do, and then I rewatch it and I'm like, no, I actually really do like this, and I just forget because if I'm not watching it, then my nitpicks get bigger in my brain, and then until I watch it again. So that's something else I can think of. I don't know.
I've never really wavered on that one. I mean, I know that movie has giant visible warts right on his face, but I really still love that movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are the things that come to mind for now.
Here's one that'll be real popular with everybody. The Batman has gotten a little bit worse each time I've watched it.
Well, he asked for positive ones.
For positive, yeah.
So I didn't even want to go
Cancel
there.
that. Forget I said anything.
I didn't want to go
your
there.
angry emails.
Positive ones. So
Jay's a positive guy, so we should have stayed with that anyway.
Yeah. I will say this. I always thought Detective Chimp was so dumb until Jay, your love of it was so infectious that like now I kind of like him.
I'm pretty sure Jay has a Detective Chimp mural tattoo right on his back. I mean,
yeah.
Nobody loves that character like Jay does.
I will say this though about like the trivial things like Trunks, no Trunks. That's stuff that I just can't care about enough to fight about.
I'm a Trunks guy, but I'm not going to hate on a movie or something just because they're not there.
Yeah, there are certain things like that a lot of fans, it becomes the hill they want to die on, and I've just never understood that. like there's just certain things like that where I'm like, really, like this is that big a deal to you? So yeah, for what it's worth, where I'm like, either way, it's fine. I don't care. I'm sure there are others, but I have to think about it. But thanks, Jay. Next email here is from Adam Padron. It says, "Hey, Andy, Jamie, Brendan, I hope you're enjoying the heck out of spooky season. It's me again asking about Zack Snyder. LOL. Any chance that you saw the happy, sad, confused interview with Henry Cavill? Well, Zack Snyder chimed in via video and asked Henry a question, and then he signed off saying, I can't wait to work with you in the future, and you're the greatest Superman ever. At first listen, it sounded very much that what he meant is that they will work together in the future. But after a while of considering it, he could have meant, I hope we will work together in the future, or something along those lines. It's me, so obviously in my mind, Man of Steel and Henry Cavill as Superman is a Zack Snyder thing. So of course, let him continue. But I realize not everyone feels that way. So how do you guys feel about Zack's statement and the potential of Zack and Henry working on Superman again? Sorry if it's long-winded. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. I caught bits of the interview, and I did hear about this, about Zack chiming in. Well, before I say my piece, Jamie, I'll let you say your piece.
Well, I mean, I didn't catch the interview. I don't know really anything about it other than what was just said in the email. But how I take that is just a couple of guys who worked together and enjoyed working together, would love to collaborate again. I don't think there's anything specifically targeted. that they are doing, or there are any plans in the pipe that I know of. That doesn't necessarily mean Zach's coming back for Man of Steel 2 or anything like that. I feel like Zach enjoyed working with Henry and really, liked his style and everything. And, I imagine that's probably pretty mutual. And he's just saying, hey, I'll catch you on the next one. That's how I feel about it. I hope I'm dead ass wrong, and they're in the process of pre-production on Justice League 2 and 3 right now, but I'm not holding my breath that was what the intention of that comment was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all it means. Is he was being supportive of his friend. He's really happy that his friend has returned as Superman, who he cast as Superman, and so obviously he thinks Henry is the greatest Superman ever. And so saying I can't wait to work together means that someday we will work together. I don't think that means there is an immediate plan to work together. So Zach has his frequent collaborators. He does love working with the same people over and over again. And so I'm sure they will work together in the future, but I'm sure that's all it means. But as I said earlier, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Zach to come back eventually and do another DC film, as long as Gunn is the new creative head. But I don't think it's going to be immediate because Zach's got stuff to finish up at Netflix. And I'm not sure it would be the next Superman movie. I think it would be probably something different. So that's all I take it as, but it's nice to see them continuing to publicly support each other because they're pals and they're collaborators and they like each other. All right, next message is from Cam Stewart. It says, "What's up, BatCast family? I had a question about the new soon-to-come DC Studios Connected Universe. Since the Matt Reeves Batman is separated from the Connected Universe, how do you think they'll handle Batman? I'd love for Ben to come back, but what are the real chances of that happening? Would WB want two different Batman trilogies happening at the same time? Honestly, I wouldn't mind. But is it possible that they don't use Batman or just use him in cameos in other heroes' movies and the next Justice League movie? They could also go the Michael Keaton route because I would be all for that too. Another and my least favorite of these would be to just recast and get a new Batman altogether. What is your preference on how they use Batman in the Connected Universe? Sorry for the long message. So much love to the show, Cam. Thanks, Cam. All right, Jamie, what do you think? How do you think they deal with, or how do you want them to deal with Batman in the Connected Universe versus the solo films with Robert Pattinson?
I mean, how I want them to deal with it is get Ben back and just kind of continue along those same lines, but that seems pretty unlikely to me. Recasting the part with somebody like a John Hamm or somebody that bears physical similarities to Ben wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. It wouldn't not make sense, but I really like the idea, and that's actually what I was going to suggest is what he was talking about. If you're establishing a shared universe Batman instead of the standalone solo Batman, incorporate Batman into other films, be it Justice League, cameos, team up, something like that, and just don't have another Batman solo movie while the Reeves thing is going on. And I think it'll sink in fine with general audiences and everything else. It'll be understood at that point. There won't be any confusion or anything like that. I mean, the world is big enough to where the stuff can go simultaneously and not cause too much confusion. But if you have Batman Arkham Asylum and the same time as like the Batman 2, that might throw people off just enough that I don't think that's an approach that they would want to take.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. First choice would be to bring Ben back. But again, I just don't know if he really wants to do that. It seems like he doesn't really want to do that. I've been wrong before, and I'd love to be wrong here because that would be my choice, is to have Ben continue as the shared universe Batman. But I wouldn't expect that. I do think, and again, this is a bit of an unpopular opinion, I think that the Keaton solution was actually a pretty clever solution, was to bring him into the shared universe. He is the elder statesman Batman for the shared universe, and then there will be no confusion with Pattinson and his own franchise and the solo films. I'm still okay with that if that's the way it ends up being, and I thought that was, again, a pretty smart way of handling it. And then the third option is to just recast and have a shared universe Batman who does not have his own solo films. And I think that could work too, because I don't want a connected universe for DC that could mean more Justice League movies that don't include Batman. And so you just want to make the shared universe Batman distinct enough that there is no confusion. And I agree with what you said, Jamie, is that means not giving him his own solo movies, but having just the shared universe one where he pops up in Justice League or other films.
Sounds like we're all on about the same page, though.
Yep. All right. Oh, this one we already answered, but I'll read it real quick from Ron Messbarger. It says, "Hey there. I hope your spooky season's going well. I know it's early, but what the heck? Who do you think should be the next antagonist for Superman?" We all agree it's Brainiac. Brainiac needs to be the one, but let's just say it's not Brainiac. Is there anyone else, Jamie, that you'd like?
Metallo, Bizarro. I mean, there's any number
Parasite.
of approaches they could take. Parasite.
Yeah, any of those. We've got Intergang and Black Adam. I could see that.
That was a nice touch. I'm glad you brought that up. That was a very nice touch having that in there.
Yeah, so I think that could be cool. Bring that back over. Yeah, any of those I think would be cool. But Brainiac is still number one. But I mean, there are so many of Superman's villains that we've never seen, and now is the time.
And I never want to see Lex go away. Like I want him to be a constant there. But as far as focal villains, we've had enough Lex and enough Zod for my lifetime.
Yeah.
Let's give some other people an up to bat here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Lex should always be part of the Superman story. He just shouldn't always be the main antagonist. He should just be but he should be present in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next message is from Jacob Waxter. It says, "Hey, it's me again. I'm here to ask about what your favorite Batman character is, and who do you think would be the best for the role, live action or animated, and your favorite design. Have a great rest of your day, your friend Jacob." Thanks, Jacob. Okay, your favorite Batman character, who should play them, and your favorite design.
Well, I mean, my favorite Batman character is Batman, but
right, accurate, yeah.
If we're not rolling in that direction, like a different character than Batman, I'm going to cheat and give you two, because heroes would be Batgirl, and villains would be Ra's al Ghul. Favorite design, I mean, Ra's in the animated series looks like he's right up off of a page. So, I mean, I would love to see something in a live action movie in that capacity. No disrespect at all to Liam Neeson or Chris Nolan. I think they did that beautiful, and I absolutely adore it. But something a little bit more along the lines of a mystical, fantastical Ra's with a Lazarus pit, involving that, and that just general appearance with the green cloak and everything like that, I think would be great.
Yeah.
As far as who should play Ra's, clearly it's Lawrence Fishburne.
It's Lawrence Fishburne, obviously. Yeah, the casting piece is one that I don't have an answer for, because I have not prepared. But, I love Nightwing. I love Tim Drake Robin. I would love to have both of them in live action in a movie. I mean, at least I'm getting them in Titans, but it's not quite the same. As far as who would play them, I don't know that. I would have to think about that. But like Nightwing, I do love the pretty classic blue and black acrobat outfit. Not Disco Nightwing, not the red one, but the pretty classic blue and black. Not dissimilar from what he wears in Titans, but just less armored. So he could do a little more of the acrobatics.
I still feel like your Zac Efron choice for Nightwing is pretty friggin' inspired. So
it is. He just keeps getting older, which is,
well, I mean, how dare Nightwing? So
how dare he? I mean, yeah, I think that when we originally talked about that 7 years ago, I think it was a great choice, but now I feel like he's almost aged out of it. So I would have to think about who would be the next choice. And then Tim Drake Robin, I mean, the best design was his first real Robin design from 1993. I think it was 93.
About right.
Yeah. That's the best look for Tim Drake Robin, so much so that they in the comics and in animation they retconned that's what Dick Grayson would wear, and that's what Jason Todd would wear. That's how good that design was, is all of a sudden all the Robins used to wear it. But yeah, like that's what he should wear, the red, green, and yellow, but like with pants and and the bow staff and everything. But as for who would play him, I don't know either. And then as for like a villain, if we're talking a villain, Mr. Freeze, I'm a huge Mr. Freeze fan. I want to see him redeemed in live action. Also, I'd have to think about casting. I know the current fan cast is Giancarlo Esposito, and we love him, and he's great. He's always great. It just feels like, yeah, everyone's already cast that. I feel like I need to think about just to offer you something different. But the best design for that is essentially a version of the animated series translated to live action, not as busy and bulky as what we got in Batman and Robin. The one from Gotham wasn't bad, but a little cheesy with Fox TV budget. So I still think there is a great live action Mr. Freeze waiting to happen.
Cranston would be a good choice there too, but we pick him for everything. So
I know. I mean, yeah. I mean, right now, same with Giancarlo Esposito. It's like they're the go-to fan cast for any comic book villain.
Well, go ahead and slide Esposito over to Professor X, and we'll take Cranston for Mr. Freeze. We're going to serve both worlds very properly.
Well, because I feel like I've heard Esposito for Mr. Freeze, for Lex Luthor, for Professor X. Like I've seen him for multiple things, and yeah.
He's a great actor. He's got a very distinctive voice. I mean, I'd welcome him in pretty much anything. But with Cranston, I mean, you could pretty much take anybody out of the whole Breaking Bad universe and put them in wherever you want, and I'm going to be okay with it. So,
well, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to say Frankie Muniz as Mr. Freeze.
Well, that's still adjacent to Bryan Cranston, so
or Jane Kazamarak, or however you say that.
Kazmarek.
Yeah, her is Professor X.
I ain't mad at it. I like her.
Okay. Sorry we can't help you with the casting, but that always takes more time, and I didn't have those ready to go. All right, next message is from Mark Jurasevic. It says, "Hey, BatCasters, I watched Black Adam, and I loved it. The Superman cameo was perfect. I do hope that we get to see Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate again, and Aldous Hodge's Hawkman was a standout. When the JSA went underwater, I was half expecting an Aquaman cameo. Me too, Mark. Me too. Making Black Adam more of a hero than a villain towards the end was a good move. Seems like the next meeting of Black Adam and Superman might be a team up. Who would you like to see them team up against? Personally, I'd love to see them face off against Darkseid. Take it easy. Apologies for the randomness, Mark." Thanks, Mark. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. I definitely had that Aquaman thought, but then I also said, I think I would have heard about it if that was going to happen.
Yeah. I almost feel like maybe they should have had like some Atlantean guards watching that portal that went into the complex, but that was just more, fan fiction, wishful thinking kind of stuff there.
Yeah. I can't be too greedy, but it definitely crossed my mind. If you listen to the review, I think they did a good job of towing the line between hero and villain with Black Adam, but I do think by the end he was a little too heroic. Like in my head, I think he was.
In the comics, to be fair, from what I've read of him, and again, most of my Black Adam familiarity comes from that 52 series. In the comics, Kondak very much views him the way that these people were viewing him in this film. So as far as that angle, I think they did it right. It's people outside of Kondak that tend to view him differently. Like it got to the point, and again, it's very hazy. It's been years since I've read it, and those books are very, very long. I have the omnibus, which is like, a Bible and a dictionary tied together. And I feel like there was a moment where he basically said, Kondak is independent. We don't want anybody's help. I've got everything covered here. And if you come into Kondak, that's the end of you. And people that would come in there, mercenaries or whatever, he'd just vaporize them. And people were getting mad at him. And he's like, stay out of our business completely. And the people of Kondak all seem to support him because he's their protector and watches over them and everything else. But Kondak just at that point wants to be left alone. So I feel like the movie kind of went that direction. So I think they did it well enough.
All right. No, that's fair. I have not read the book, so I think that makes sense. Cool.
A Black Adam super fan is going to know more about this than me. This is all, hazy memories that I'm pulling out of that book, but I feel like that's where they were going with it.
Well, who the biggest Black Adam super fan is? The Rock. Yeah, he's the only one who would know. So we'll have to ask him. So if Black Adam and Superman were to team up, which is interesting. It could certainly go that way. It could. I mean, we'll see. Who would you love to see them team up against?
Oh gosh, I mean, you'd need somebody super powerful, obviously, like a Darkseid, but I feel like Darkseid needs to just be saved for the Justice League.
Yeah, I don't want to go straight to Darkseid. Doomsday. I could see Doomsday.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've already seen him, so
Yeah.
that makes that a little trickier. But like, you're right. It has to be someone who is super formidable and super powerful that would require them both. But I don't want to go straight to Darkseid.
Right.
Who else is one of? Oh, what about like Mongol?
Yeah, that would
Something
work.
like that. You know,
That would be super obscure, but I mean, his power scale's pretty high up there.
yeah. I got to think of someone powerful enough that's not Darkseid.
I'm trying to think if there's a way to do it with the new gods without involving Apocalypse.
Yeah.
So have like Orion and is it Old Father? Is that his name? You know, some of them would be good, but I mean, why would you be fighting at that point?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
What
a way
about
to write
what
that,
about
I'm sure.
Granny Goodness? What about Superman and Black Adam versus Granny Goodness?
And the Furies, maybe.
No, just Granny Goodness.
Just Granny? Okay.
Just Granny, because it's funnier that way.
Okay. I'll take it.
But yes, in
of
reality,
Granny
the Furies should probably be there too. But I just like the idea of the old lady just wiping the floor with Superman and Black Adam.
I don't
just
think
be
The Rock,
funny as
I
hell
don't think
to
The
watch.
Rock would agree to that because I don't think getting beat up by an old woman's in his contract.
I don't care. This is not his show. I would love it. I'd love to see Kathy Bates punching out The Rock.
I mean, I'd sign up for that. I'd watch the shit out of that because I love me some Kathy Bates.
I was just thinking about who else could we take from Apocalypse that's not Darkseid?
Yeah.
We already used Steppenwolf.
Calabac.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, I haven't seen him show up anywhere since Super Friends. So
Yeah,
that is his name, right? Calabac.
I think so. That's the way I remember it.
Darkseid's kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that weird, funny, hairy vest thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Calabac's also the name of a villain in Clash of the Titans. That's why I was confused for a second.
Yeah. How about? Oh, I got it. Superman and Black Adam versus Baby Doll.
Now you're just being hurtful.
And it's like it's the shortest movie of all time because they just smash her.
It's like Bambi meets Godzilla.
It is. It's like Bambi meets Godzilla. It's just she's like, oh, I'm gonna get you guys. Splat.
Sadly, I'd probably throw money at that too.
That's the cold open. Then they fight someone else.
I mean,
okay.
I would versus a team up. I'd almost rather see like the 3-way throwdown between Shazam, Superman, and Black Adam, like what we got in that animated short.
Yeah.
That's really where my head's at.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I could think of other DC villains if you gave me the time that are not Darkseid adjacent that have the same power levels that would be needed for this kind of team up.
Sure. I mean, it's what I'm actually really interested to see is we know, being comics fans, the Superman's 2 big weaknesses are, I mean, technically 3. You take away the yellow sun, you use kryptonite or magic.
Yeah.
The Shazam powers are based in magic. Are we going to acknowledge that? Or are we just going to play it off like superpowered beings beating the shit out of each other?
No, I think they would. I do. Because they've been so deliberate with the magic of Shazam,
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for it.
All right. We're on our last email. We did it. This is from Stuart from Guernsey. It says, what a week it's been. I've literally been on an internet blackout as I wasn't able to see Black Adam until last night, and I didn't want to be spoiled. Last Friday, I was just about to leave my house to watch the movie with my son, and then I had a funny feeling in my stomach, and the next thing I was sick and carried on all through the night, so I had to miss it. I wasn't feeling well again until Tuesday, and I wasn't able to get a babysitter, so I had to wait until Friday. I had a lot of fun with the movie. The Justice Society were my favorite part. After watching, I couldn't help but feel there was a missing piece to the puzzle. Like there was a secret Justice Society film that we have never seen before. I obviously know this isn't the case, but I would love to see them in their own movie prior to Black Adam. What would you like to see if they didn't make one about the Justice Society, or would you rather see them appear in other supporting projects going forward? Anyway, I hope you're doing well, Stuart. Thanks, Stuart. I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad you got to see the movie. And so yeah, I guess the question is, would you like to see a Justice Society film, or would you rather have them show up in other stuff?
I'm frankly okay either way. I mean, let me ask you this: are we assuming that the Justice Society is like a newly formed team of supers, or have they been around for a minute? I mean, we know Fate's been around for a minute. We know that much, but
I think they've been around for a minute because otherwise, why would Waller call them?
yeah, it's just. I mean, is this one of those things where they kind of formed up after the post Superman effect, if you will?
Yeah.
Or have they been around for a minute and we just don't have an explanation of why they decided not to get involved with any of these intergalactic conflicts that came around?
No, that's a good question, and I think you're getting to the point that Stuart was making of like, oh, like there's a missing piece of like, how long have they been around, right? Like that kind of thing. So
I think they left it intentionally vague just so that question wouldn't get asked or become an issue. But as I was watching the film, I'm like, wait, where the hell do these guys come from? Fate, you've been around for 100 years, and you mean to tell me you can't get involved with Doomsday, Darkseid, Parademons, any of this stuff? You were just sitting back saying, well, this popcorn's tasty. I wonder what these guys are going to do here. I don't know. I have that problem a lot. I know, Marvel, DC, whatever, that it's always a, why didn't this person show up to help in this scenario? And, it's a whole comic book thing really, but you just kind of have to write it off and go with it at some point.
yeah, I mean, I understand the question. For some of those movies, it certainly doesn't bother me. Like, I mean, Man of Steel, it was well, at the time it was very clear it was only Superman. We learned later that was not always the case. But like with BVS, by the time Dr. Fate even heard about Doomsday, it was probably already over. That kind of thing. You don't know where he is in the world. So stuff like that doesn't bother me as much. But when you get to something like Justice League, right, where it seems like these are the only options on the table at that point, that then you go, well, then how does this fit in? And so I think you're not supposed to think about it, but being nerds, we kind of can't help ourselves. So I mean, honestly, like I accepted it as it was, but the point is valid. So I would, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see a solo film because I loved all four characters. Uh, Whether that be a prequel to show what led up to this or not, I would be fine either way. But I do hope that we see these characters again one way or the other. But you've got to assume that they've at least been around a little while, because otherwise, again, why would Waller be in contact with Hawkman? Hawkman and Dr. Fate obviously have a history. They discuss that. But Atom Smasher and Cyclone are new to the team. And so was the Justice Society truly formed prior to this? We don't know.
Well, and the excuse me, the Henry Winkler cameo indicates that hero has been around for sorry, a great number of years too. So was the Justice Society as we know it with Dr. Fate and Wildcat and Starman and all these, there's a great number of characters whose names I'm just not processing well right now. Have they truly been around that long, and they just kind of went into retirement before the Superman thing happened? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a can of worms. It'll just bake your noodle if you think too much into it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I think the point is valid. I hope we see them again. I would love to see them show up in other films, whether it be a Black Adam sequel or they could start making their way out into the rest of the DC universe. I think that would be really cool. And to your point, I do think that at a certain point, they give a little bit of context as far as where they came from. But I will say it did nothing to detract from my enjoyment of the movie. All right, that is it. That's it for the Wayne Manor Mailbox. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. We love hearing from you guys. We love the questions. We certainly appreciate it. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor Mailbox for next time, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. But there you go. So we're going to wrap this up. Jamie, always a pleasure. Thanks for making the time this morning.
Yes, sir. We'll go finish off these last 36 hours or so of the scary season and move along to a little turkey, and then after that move on to a fat man in a red suit.
All of those things. We're in the thick of it. And honestly, by the time I publish this, Halloween might be over.
Yeah, because you've had a number of episodes this week.
Because we just dropped one, and I like to space it out. I like to respect our listeners' time. I don't like to overload them.
I can appreciate that.
I like to give them time to listen to the last one before I drop the new one. But anyway, Jamie, I do appreciate it. Happy Halloween. Even
Happy
if
Halloween
you're listening to this
you,
after
to all the
Halloween.
listeners out
Yes.
there, everybody, stay safe, enjoy the holiday, be responsible. I'm going to be like your dad here. Be responsible. Don't get carried away. If you're going to imbibe in a little witch's brew, just make sure you got a ride and you ain't doing it yourself. Watch out for the little goblins running around. I mean, sometimes we don't think about that sort of thing, but when you have kids, you become hypersensitive of how people are driving while your kids are running through the streets high on candy. So be aware of all that stuff, and get your Scarathon stuff in, y'all. We're at the home stretch here.
Yeah, we gave you like 60 new options to watch.
That's a true story.
You're welcome. I don't want to scare anybody, but I heard a rumor that the Shape might be terrorizing Winter Garden, Florida, Halloween night.
Magnificent. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all. This is on my Twitter if you want to go check out a picture of it. But of course, my daughters were born on Halloween. So the weekend on Halloween, right around adjacent to it, we let them pick where we go eat at. And last night, my younger daughter picked BJ's Brew House. And we were sitting there waiting on a table, and my daughter said, "That waitress is dressed as Raven." I was like, "What? Nah, you're probably just assuming that because, you have it on the brain or something." She's like, No. I was like, "Whatever."
Oh,
So
I'm seeing it right now. It totally is.
We sit down, and that winds up being the waitress at our table. And I'm looking at her. She's trying to take my drink order, and I'm just staring at her blankly. And she's looking at me like, "Is this guy okay?" And I'm like, "Is that a Raven costume?" She said, "Yeah." And I just raised my hands up and clapped. I was like, "That is wonderful. Excellent. Nice work." She's like, "I actually have the cloak in the back, but when I got here at 11 o'clock today, it was a great idea, but it started getting super hot. So I took it off." I'm like, "No, I get it." But anyway, I asked her permission to do it, and she was cool about it. So I took her picture. If you want to go check out my Twitter at BatRaider3960, there's a picture of this young woman with the Raven costume on that was our server last night. And that was super cool seeing that. It was very unexpected.
I saw. Very cool. Thanks for the heads up. Respect. Anyway, did you just give your Twitter handle, or did you just say go to my Twitter?
I did. I gave it.
Okay.
But
I was too busy looking. I was too busy looking at it. Sorry.
BatRaider3960.
So I was like, yay. Okay, good. Go give Jamie a follow. And I already told you where to follow me, but thank you as always for joining us. Thanks for downloading or streaming the show. Please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, so you never miss an episode. And if you want to do something nice to support us that doesn't cost a penny, all you have to do is rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or Stitcher, wherever you get your shows. It takes a minute, it's free, and it's the best thing you could do to help us out. So we would appreciate that. You can go to holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by Gaurav Venkateswar. His work can be found at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. You can check out manscaped.com and use the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping, or go to trueclassic.com and get 25% off with the promo code BATCAST. But that'll do it. On behalf of Jamie, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And even if it's already over, we hope you guys had a very happy and safe Halloween and enjoyed everything that spooky season had to offer. But then get ready for some turkey. All right, see you guys next time. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. That's okay. I'm recording again. I just started a new recording.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, maybe when we record is not the time to try all the new beers you got in one
You're
day.
probably right, but damn it, dude. How can I have all these Halloween themed beers? And
You only have a couple days to drink them all, so I guess you're on a time crunch.
Exactly. Speaking of crunch, there's a Captain Crunch one. Did I mention that?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The world has gone mad, but that's okay.
Anyway.